to slow you down.
Welcome to the August 21st, 2019 Conservation Commission. Ask everybody to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excellent. First on the agenda is a project update for the emergency certificate on Boston Road, Woodburyville Pond. Welcome, everyone.
Can you stand up there? I can use the microphone.
Yeah, you gotta get kinda close to it.
Matt Stencil, Sutton Highway Superintendent. We met the other day with our dam engineers from Weston and Sampson and a representative from a company that manufactures water, wastewater, gates, and someone from the Office of Dam Safety. And we built a little sandbag dam so we could get a better look, dry out the outlet structure. It's basically 32 by 34 inch concrete structure. It's a concrete culvert that goes underneath the road. There's not much left of what was there. What was there is gone. I can forward you some pictures, at a later time. Shows it very much clearer, now that we did that. Now the water came up a few inches. We added sandbags to what was there to get a dry look, and then we just let the water fill up. So now it's a couple inches higher than it was, but there's a reasonable amount of water in there now.
Okay.
So the gate guy has to go back and figure out what type of gate. He's got his measurements and stuff now, and they get a better look at the concrete, dried out. And then the engineers have to figure out how we're gonna build it in place. They don't really care for the concrete that's there. They want something that's pretty old and weathered, so they're probably gonna build something on top of that, in front of that, something like that. And then the gate would fix to that, and it would be most likely be very similar to what was there, and that what was there just basically slid in front of it. I think it did have some kind of a guide rail, but you can't really tell for sure now.
At one point.
At one point, and then we would reach over to the guardrail from Boston Road with a backhoe or something with a chain, and then yank the thing out. I don't foresee ever really using it. We never used it before. It wasn't even widely known that it was there.
The pipes under Boston Road are enormous. I can't.
Yeah, there's 6 enormous pipes, and if they can't keep up that little 3x3
Yeah.
box culvert, it's not going to change much. And I don't see us wanting to, draw it down really that low for any other reason, but you never know what might happen. So the Office of Dam Safety anyways has it in the state regulations. We have to have a way to empty the ponds. So that's basically why we have to, replace replace the gate, is they want something there. So
Dam Safety was on board with repairing it. They didn't.
Dam Safety basically just defers to our consultant. I suppose they wouldn't do that with everybody, but they know that, it's a reputable dam engineering firm. So I asked them what their preference was, and they said they would defer to whatever solution the Weston and Sampson Dam people came up with. So.
Excellent. Brandon, you have anything on this?
No, that all sounds good to me.
So now we just wait to see what the gate guy figures something out and gets together with the engineers on how it's going to be done.
Okay.
And then we'd figure out funding. I guess once we have a price tag to put on it, we'll figure out, the funding and going forward. But
The big question that I'm hearing is a timeline.
Yeah.
well, the gate's going to take probably 6 to 8 weeks to make. He should have it figured out within a week.
Okay.
So hopefully then they can put a price on it, and we can figure out some funding at least for that end of it, for that part of it, and we get it on order.
Okay.
Because it'll take 6 to 8 weeks to make it and get it here, and then of course that's getting us a lot closer to winter. So we don't have a lot of time, even though it's nice out today and warm out today. It's winter's not far, so we plan to expedite it as much as we can, just because we want to forget about it before we have ice in there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Matt, what was the name of the company again? The gate company?
I don't know the name. Oh, I think it was. I'd have to look at my emails.
They were from
Atlantic
up
Fluid Technologies or something, or American
Athol?
Fluid Technologies.
Yeah, Athol.
No, they're from West Boylston.
Oh.
I thought they were from Athol, but
Yeah.
or maybe they moved. I think it's Atlantic Fluid Technologies or something like that. I can find it in my emails, Wanda, and send it to you.
Do they make things like tide gates?
All sorts of stuff for wastewater, water, ocean stuff, all kinds of
I remember working on a project
stuff like that.
where they had it was a giant rubber just cover that allowed water from a river to go out But then when high tide came up, it would
Yeah, it would
close it,
close it.
so it wouldn't
Yeah,
back
that's-
up, because the high tide was flooding out the neighborhood. So that way, it would keep the high tide water out. So-
Yeah,
and
that's the sort of thing they
When you
would
said
do.
Atlantic, that almost sounded familiar.
Yeah, that sounds like the sort of thing they did. He showed me some brochures and stuff of all sorts of different things. And he has something, he's not making it from scratch, he's just making one of their gates conform to our sizes, and then, getting the, the measurements and everything. Like I said, we dried it out temporarily. It didn't stay dry long. We put in a whole row of sandbags, which gained 2 to 4 inches. And the hour we were there looking at it, it already had gone up to the top of the
Oh, wow,
sandbags
so
again.
there's a high flow into it.
So there's a good amount of water coming in there. So once we do get it dammed up, it's not gonna take much to fill it, a couple of rainstorms in a few days, I think we'll bring it back up. And like I said, I think we're at a reasonable level now, not the level it was when a couple of you guys saw it, because we had to get it way down to get it cleaned out. We've got it up to a, hopefully a reasonable level for wildlife and stuff.
Excellent.
Matt, is, I think, coordination with Galaxy be going smoothly?
Yeah, we don't have much to talk about yet. We don't have a price, so we don't really have even a really great ballpark, because we weren't really sure what they would come up with. If it would be something as simple as having our guys weld something and drop it in place and let the water hold it, or, something like their engineers, so they want it to work forever and ever. So, it's gonna be something a little more substantial, which, we fought against a little bit just because of cost.
So is it Galaxy involved with the cost sharing?
Well, it hasn't been worked out.
Yeah, I think Mike all along, you've seen the emails, is committed to helping, and we gotta know what the project costs.
Yeah.
I heard through the grapevine it's gonna boil down to a rock, paper, scissors.
Okay.
Could be.
Anybody
Well, I
from-
have none in my budget, so we don't have anything in the budget for, doing this.
It's like having your boiler go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just happens, and,
It happens, right.
yeah.
Anybody from the board have any questions?
I'd like to just reiterate the fact that this was an accidental thing. It was a wooden gate that nobody really knew was there, and over the years it's just rotted through, because Wanda was getting calls about people accusing us of draining the pond and so forth.
Yeah, no, it just happened. They built it how best they could back then, and it lasted for quite a while, so.
And the lady from the Tribune wanted to take pictures, so I went down there last week with her and she took pictures, so it should be in the not the Tribune, the Chronicle tomorrow.
So, well, anybody from the audience have any questions? Excellent. Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We got some time here, so we will go.
Board business?
We will go to board business. All right. Okay, first up for board business is gonna be unexpected business, minor field change to 133 Dodge Hill Road.
I'm gonna recuse for this because I'm presenting for it.
Bill Wentz is recusing for this because he is presenting.
Good evening, Bill Wentz, 154 Dodge Hill Road, on behalf of Stockwell Farm LLC, with the property location of 133 Dodge Hill Road. We've taken the frontage A&R lot into agreement for sale. And based off the sale, the proposed buyer would like to change from the blue approved box to the pink. So still staying in the area that's already been approved. I just wanted to see if that can be considered a minor field change, if we need any new filings or updates to do that.
So we'll go through this again. He doesn't want this stuff in here.
The blue box, the blue highlight is what conservation approved for our
Mhm.
house. He's changing the house size to the proposed pink, so he's not going any closer to Dodge Hill, and he's actually making the house smaller, but going a little bit further back.
But he wants to take this part out, or does that include?
No,
It's just this new part?
It's a odd-shaped house.
Yeah, the blue is gonna be completely gone.
Like the letter H.
The pink is gonna be the house. Yeah, this is the new house that they want.
It's a house layout.
The whole letter H.
It's like an H.
Yeah, it's a strange shape. This is the house they want instead of the rectangle.
But this is still gonna be his lot.
That's, the lot's not gonna
the
change,
lot's not
just the
changing.
Oh,
structure.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Good evening.
You might wanna reiterate that to Mike.
Mike, this is on 133 Dodge Hill Road, Stockwell Farm. They were approved for the blue rectangle,
Each one.
and all they wanna do is change the house size to what the pink is. So it's an odd shaped
Do you
style
know-
house.
Is the square footage similar, Bill?
Square footage is similar. If not, it might actually be smaller.
It's smaller square footage, okay.
But they just didn't want any problems if they came for a permit. to
Okay.
build.
Brandon, do you have any issues with the,
Yeah, I've taken a look at this, Mr. Chairman, and what I found is that it's a rearranging of the house, which was originally just a big rectangle, which is usually how they put it on. And then when it comes time to build, it gets a little more specific.
gotcha.
The bottom line is that the house is proposed slightly closer to the wetland, but the thing is that it's in an area that was already approved to be lawn to begin with. So it's an area that would have been lawn, and they're also not going any closer to the wetland with their overall disturbance than they were before.
Mhm.
So I see this as minor.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any more comments on it?
Just that there's a whole lot of purple loosestrife in the meadow that needs to be mowed.
Well, that is now owned by, another party, and he's got someone lined up to mow it too.
Okay, because I think that's one of the invasive things is
Yeah,
in the,
It's coming like crazy,
Yeah.
it's coming uphill too.
Rent them to David Brown.
it's beautiful, but
I know.
it's invasive. I have no problem with it.
I need a motion to issue a minor field change.
I will motion to make a minor field change to turn from the blue to the pink design
For 133 Dodge Hill.
for 133 Dodge Hill Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Zach.
Zach, you did the motion, right? Who did the second?
Dave. Did we vote? Yeah.
Yep, we've already. Good evening. Okay, yep, 6:45, so we're doing good here. Second thing under unexpected business is Woodburyville Heights. Now, Wanda had sent out an issue. They have an open order of conditions from 2001?
It has to be way back in the 2000s.
Probably somewhere around that.
Right. So, I actually thought of this, and I remember looking up the address for it, and we haven't heard back, so I think we should act upon these to try to get them closed out, because, you know, that's an association, and realistically, when they try to sell their condos, that's a lien.
Right.
So I just don't know which is the proper way to go about it.
They've been coming in dribs and drabs, getting certain condo units done with the COCs. You know, this is way before my time, or I think anyone else's here time, even Joyce, who was the longest standing member. So basically, the commission's been accommodating them when they come in, just as long as they submit the proper paperwork, because it looks like they've done everything the way they're supposed to. They just never did the paperwork.
Never closed it out.
They never closed it out, which
So
is-
are we issuing partials when they come in?
Yeah.
We were, yeah.
Yeah.
The last one that
Per
came in
unit,
was
yeah.
refused from the other chairperson.
Right, because you're right, Wanda, because I think
Yeah, it got
it all came
refused.
in as one, all the
Yeah.
units, came in as one notice of intent.
Mhm.
And
So
it
when
has to
one
be-
unit, I don't know, gets sold or whatever it's doing, they just want to get a partial for that particular unit. And the commission's been accommodating it, there's no
Okay.
reason why not to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wanna just leave it be like that? Is everybody on the board okay with that?
Yep.
Unit by unit?
Cause we have one right now that I have on hold that I can set up for the next meeting if you want.
Okay.
You can't close out the whole until
Yeah, you
everybody
can't-
gets.
That's why the partials.
We're just doing for
Yeah.
each unit, and how many
Yeah.
units are there? There's like 80, right?
That's a good question though, because as far as I'm concerned, I think if they're all ready to be done. So why can't we
Do we
just-
need an as-built under the old bylaw, though? Is that what the problem is?
Under the old bylaw, you do, but the commission still has the power to waive that if you want to. You'd have to vote on it.
Is the project complete?
Yeah, it's been, yeah, as far as I know, it's been completed since 2005 or something.
And there's no more work to be done?
Yeah, it started in the 90s.
I mean, I love being here till 10, 11 o'clock at night doing it all
I
individually.
don't.
Neither do
Right,
I.
Right.
So, I mean,
So
if
this
the work's
is
all
kinda why I
done,
put it on the agenda, because I figured if we could get the paperwork through to get them all closed out, then
has
it's
some of them
done.
been through to say that it's like all stabilized and
everything's cleaned up and it's in,
I've driven through there. Brandon, have you ever been to Woodburyville to check on that project?
I don't even know
Which
where.
project?
Is that the one
The
down
Woodburyville
South
Heights
Sutton?
project?
Where Lou lived for a while, those condos.
Oh,
That's
no.
the one,
Yeah.
just past the pond on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
Oh,
right past the dam on the
Sold
right.
I've been through there many, many times. I used to go there as a shortcut to get to the Wilkinsonville, Water District, wells.
And there's no question that it's not done right, correctly.
As far as I'm concerned, yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with waiving it, me personally,
Okay.
the as-built
Okay,
plan,
so what I'll do is,
close it out and get it off our books.
I can send another letter and say, you know, we just need.
Now,
well,
but the
somebody wants
question is, do we send it to
That's the
80
thing.
people, or?
No, send it to the association, there must be an association.
It's a trust.
That's in
Yeah.
charge of
I sent
the
the first
roadways.
letter to the
We did.
association,
Yeah.
so now I can send them a request for certificate and
Right.
say. just-
No,
And then-
ask them to request a certificate of
Yeah.
compliance.
Right, I
And the
would send
board
them
would
the
waive
form.
the,
A request for a
Send them
request.
the form
Right, and the board will
you wanna
waive
waive
the-
the as-built?
the
Yeah,
as-built.
we'll waive the as-built, just to get it off our books.
Okay.
Everybody in agreement with that? Okay.
I'll send that out.
Excellent. All right,
So do we need to make a motion for that?
do we need to make a motion for that, or is that just
I don't think
chit
so.
chat?
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Not
chit-chat.
until-
Okay.
The request for the certificate, like the whole thing
Yeah, it's
has to
just
come.
a-
Yeah, that was good,
Yeah.
Zach. Good catch. All right. We still got 10 minutes to go, so we'll go through unexpected business number 3, Wheelock Road, Ned Bacon, proposed barn, feet from the wetlands.
Yeah, there's a question, he was supposed to send me some, lot line stuff and some footage of where they wanna put a barn in, where there's an existing, garage. But he did not send me the footage, you know, how many distance from the wetlands. He said Margaret Bacon did the paperwork.
Okay.
He didn't bring it to me, so we'll just do this.
Yeah, we can do that. Do you, so are we looking at it possibly being like an in-kind repair or something of that nature?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what is a possibility of.
So wait a minute, there's an existing barn?
It's a
Garage.
garage, it's like a two-door garage, but I told him I need the distance from here, distance from the street, distance from the lot,
Well,
like they
it-
own both lots.
Is it any in-kind repair?
No.
Well, I don't know.
That
we don't have
He
enough-
said
we don't have
don't
enough info on it yet.
information.
Understood,
He didn't
yeah.
bring it in.
Yeah, gotcha.
So do we need a motion to table that?
Um,
No, because it's
okay.
not an official application.
Okay.
so this drawing's up
I do need a motion to table the minutes.
Make a motion to table the minutes of August 7th, 2019.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
there.
Um,
Okay, Bill.
yes.
Yeah.
We get 7 minutes. I'm gonna take a motion to table the policy, bylaw, and bylaw fee review to the end of the meeting.
Make a motion to table to the end of the meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have a review, on a routing slip from Highway.
Sorry, who did the second on that?
Zach.
I'm not used
Jack.
to your
Yeah.
voices yet.
Sorry, I'll speak up.
Speak up.
We're gonna do a review, for routing slip on 329 West Sutton Road. And that's from, that's from the Highway Department.
Yeah, he left. He did not get me the reading slip back. He did not get it back to me.
Is this the one we sent to them last
Yes.
week? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we have nothing
Table
back, then
that
we'll
too.
table that. Yeah, I'll take a motion, or
No, we don't need a motion.
for that. Number 5, Sunrise Drive, email review.
I thought we, last meeting, yeah, the last meeting.
Oh,
we-
was this the addition of the
The-
walkway and stuff?
The walkway,
Yep,
that was
yep.
a minor field
That's-
change.
That's done, okay. 382 West Sutton Road for a minor field change. I don't know if Brandon wants to fill everybody in.
Right, let me bring up the plan for that, and
Yeah,
it'll make it a
I-
little easier to follow.
I can read the, I'll read the email real quick, so.
Yeah, I sent them out, so.
Okay, here we go. Alright, and this is from Mr. LaFleur. Hi Brandon, you asked me to send you any changes to the drawings. I met with my builder Doug LaBelle and we went over the location of the silt fence limited construction line. He said for actual grading purposes, we need to move the line out so the land slopes out gradually. The existing line has too many sharp edges and doesn't want to reflect what it actually will look like when it's done. If this works for you, we'll get the surveyor to plot the line, the house, well, septic system, and then I will call the Conservation Commission and have it inspected. Let me know. So we went back and forth, and I wasn't comfortable with that through email, so we went and did a site inspection earlier. I went and did a site inspection earlier. Brandon?
So, if you remember, this is like from 2, maybe 3 meetings ago. This is a existing hayfield, and the front part of it is gonna be where the septic system is gonna go. And this area here was originally going to remain a hay area, but then after further discussion, it was decided it'd probably be better if it was just turned into a mowed lawn, because it's just not big enough. So, the way I see it, just like with Dodge Hill Road that was just up, it's an area that's already approved to be a mowed lawn, to be a lawn area. So, if you need to extend the construction limits for the septic system and this grading here out a little bit further into an area that's already gonna be lawn, I see that as a minor thing. If it gives them, I'm not the engineer who designed it, but then, what happens is the guys building it say, well, that's not gonna work. And I think that's one of those situations here, and gives them a little more breathing room, so I see it as minor, because they're not extending the disturbance, overall disturbance, to even within 25 feet of the wetland, and again, I see it as a minor thing. But you saw it yourself.
I completely agree with Brandon. I actually walked where they want to extend the limit of work, and if they don't, it's gonna end up as like a 1-to-1, and you're never gonna be able to plant grass and get it to stabilize, so they're better off doing it this way, in my opinion. Does anybody from the board have any?
The only question I had, did we give him permission to clear cut right to the wall?
Well, it's
I went by today and it was
Yeah, I got pictures. It is.
clear cut
it is-
right to the wall. That's
is-
not what I remembered that
It
they
is
were.
cleaned out. I don't remember the.
I thought they were allowed to mow the existing area that had been always mowed.
Well,
I'm just asking.
I heard that the invasive species removal project started.
There is piles of invasives.
Right, so the question, the wall is the property line. This is kind of obscured, so let me bring up a better one. So the wall is the property line. So they're allowed to remove invasives all along the brush line, which is very close to the property line.
I'll show you what it looks like as of today against the. All right. This is tough with a small phone here, but we can pass this back and forth. This is what the property
I
looks
saw
like
it. I
today,
drove
yeah.
by today. I go by there to go home every day.
There is definitely some of it within the buffer zone, but.
Not a tree, brush, it's clear cut to the wall.
The agreement was that the trees have to remain.
Yeah,
You can
that-
see the stumps in the picture.
That part of it, I don't remember. That's the wall, and that's.
I was
the
gonna
wall
ask,
phone.
I was curious if that's what
Oh,
we were.
yeah, there's a.
That's not what I understood
Like a
if we.
2-foot tree.
Mm.
Yeah, there was something about changing where the entrance was gonna be at one point.
I saw that. They have that marked out. I did see
But-
that.
Is that why the trees
Yeah.
cut, maybe?
It could be part of why the trees are cut, if they're gonna hug that wall with the driveway, I don't know, I'm not sure. We weren't there for that reason. I was just there to look into the limited disturbance.
So if that's where the driveway was gonna go in, that's the reason the tree is, but I,
Do we have the site plan that got approved? It says right on it what they were allowed to do. So it's limited, huh?
I'm looking for it here.
Brandon, did you wanna see these pictures, or did you drive by there?
I haven't driven by it, but I have heard that this work has started.
What about a pre-construction meeting and erosion controls and a letter from the engineer?
I did a pre-construction meeting for the invasive species removal, which there's no erosion control necessary for that. When construction begins, I'm gonna have to do another one, presuming with Doug LaBelle, who's doing the building. I did the invasive species pre-construction meeting with Glenn Kravosky and Mr. LaFleur, and went through it.
There isn't any holes dug. I can tell you, there's no earthwork, but there is some serious amount of clearing with trees and invasive brush.
The way I remember the conversation going during the pre-construction meeting was that we were going to
Wanda, can
be
you
dealing
hand this
mostly
to
with the
Brandon?
understory. And
Gotcha.
because the invasives can be so intermingled with the native species. Sometimes you have to cut it all down just because it's so labor intensive to weed out each individual invasive. And then what you do is you just suppress the invasives and let the natives grow back up. And in 3 years, it comes back and you don't even know, it happened, and it's better. But I don't remember any trees being approved for removal.
That's a big tree.
Along the property line.
Unless that's where the new driveway is.
Right, so let's do this, let's, issue a minor field change, in my opinion, for the limited disturbance, and let's call them into the next meeting to discuss the tree removal.
Now, there are some trees along the front that are approved to be removed. For example,
That was along the
Yeah,
front.
that was along the front.
along the front,
Yeah.
right, but there's, right along the front here, they're supposed to eventually replace them.
Mhm.
That looks like the two. isn't
Those are
it?
the
Yeah,
two that I
yeah.
got a good picture of, yeah.
But were there any along this line right here?
There's piles of brush and invasives, but I didn't see any large trees that were taken out of that
Yeah,
area.
there weren't supposed to be any large trees taken along this property line.
Yeah, I didn't,
I don't think there are any large trees along that property line.
Well, then,
There's a few, there's a white walnut in here and
yeah.
a few others.
probably no need to call them in then if those trees were
Right.
approved to cut, right?
Right.
Someone take a drive-by, we all drive by there.
Yeah, I mean, anybody can stop and we can call them in after the fact, but if that was okay in the front, then I'm fine with it. Anybody else, any comments?
Make a motion to issue a minor field change for the, what was it, for the,
Regrading?
Limited disturbance.
for the regrading limited disturbance for 382 West Sutton Road.
Thank you.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, it is now 7:00. Move through that, that's pretty good.
It feels good to get some accomplished for normal.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe we should change the,
Get out of here at a decent hour.
All right.
You make a motion to start earlier at this meeting, if everybody wanted to?
Yeah, wait till the end of
Yeah.
the
Right,
rush.
that we'll talk about it, yeah. It's now 7:00, 310 Putnam Hill Road.
This came in late.
The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, at 7:00 p.m. at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Susan Nissenbaum, Grafton, Mass. The project consists of construction of a new house, well, and septic system on map 42, parcels 29 at 310 Putnam Hill Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name's Norman Hill. I'm a civil engineer with the consulting firm of Land Planning.
Norman, do you have any other applications with any other boards right now?
No.
You don't have any other, okay. All right, we have all the fees paid, and the abutters notices back?
Yes, we sent them over.
Wanda, do you have those? The abutters notices? It says 0.
she doesn't have the abutters notices. Do you have them, Norman?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. I'll give you the last copy.
Thank you.
Give you one of those. You said you have to send them over.
Does anybody want to see the record?
These bills to be paid?
Yes.
So I've just handed you out a view of the overall lot, and I'd like you to focus on that if you could at
Did you
first.
get them?
Did you get the abutters? Yeah.
Before I go to the big plan, which is focuses in on 1 acre of the lot, I'd like you to look at the 3.5 acre lot and appreciate why I've cited the house where I'm proposing it. So the brown square is where we're proposing the house. The red lines are the property lines. And the green area that I've shaded in green is where I flagged the wetlands, we surveyed the location of the wetlands. Now, if you study that map, you'll see that the house is sited on an area of the land that slopes away from the road gently. But there is another potential site for the house, which would be down to the right end of the property, the eastern end of the property. But that is steep hills, ledge, rocky outcroppings, and it just goes uphill, almost 30 feet, straight up from the road. Then it drops, there's a cliff out back that drops to the wetlands out back. So it's not a suitable site for a house. So where I have sited the house is, I believe, the only suitable site where we could site a house on this property. And it's important to realize this, because we're asking for some waivers from your minimum setbacks, your minimum required setbacks. So I'm just gonna introduce this project to you tonight. I expect that you'll study it, you have your consultant study it, and we'll come back again, and I'd like to hear your comments then. But now I'll get to the big plan. So, is anyone here interested in this site? Okay. So,
Well, there's a way I can gain that, where everyone can see it.
Yeah.
I can just hold it, that's.
Where are your variances gonna come from, Norman? Just from us or from other boards?
Just for this board.
Just from this board, okay.
Yeah, so I've designed it so it meets all state regulations, meets all Board of Health regulations. It's just we're gonna need some waivers on your setbacks, because we've got the house closer to the wetlands than you'd like to see it. We've got the septic system closer to the wetlands than you'd like to see it. So, here's focusing in on that western end of the property, that acre of upland on the western end. Here's Sutton Hill Road. Again, the red is the property line. The brown would be the house. This would be where the septic system would be installed, and the driveway would go there. And we have siltation controls proposed like that. And then the clearing would go right to those siltation controls. We're gonna have to clear this out to make room for the septic system and the grading that goes around that septic system. I've designed it for a walkout basement, so there's no fill behind the house. Like I said, it comes back from the house is 50 feet from the street, and then the house is 24 feet. It's a small house, it's only 24 by 36. So I've designed, I think, as small a house as I client would like. And we've got a walkout basement with no fill out back, but we are proposing a small deck with some stairs out back. Now, Brandon had sent me an email and mentioned to me about your signs. So I revised the plan that we had submitted, I put 2 new copies for you to look at. And on this plan, I've shown the sign detail that he emailed to me, and the signs will be located every 50 feet along that limit of work line, proposed limit of work line, so I'll leave those 2 copies of plans with you there.
So this septic system's approved by the Board of Health?
No, it has not been approved by the Board of Health yet,
Okay, so this is pending then.
pending with the Board of Health.
All right. And there's nothing with planning or appeal to this?
No, this lot has been in existence like this, I ran it back about 80 years.
Okay.
So it's been in sole ownership, it's considered a grandfather lot for the building inspector, although it has plenty of acreage and frontage. But I think it's important for you to consider the history of the lot, because it's been sole lot in this condition, it wasn't like just recently cut out.
Mhm.
It's been in this shape for over 80 years, and I think that's an appropriate thing to consider when we're asking you to grant the waivers for the setback to the house and the septic. So the waivers we're requesting, we're asking you to allow the house to be 28 feet from the edge of wetlands, and the septic system to be 50.6 feet.
Yeah, it's right.
Structure.
I believe your regulation calls for the septic to be at least 100 feet. from the
How many,
house.
how many feet was the septic, I'm sorry?
50.6.
50.6 at the closest.
Yeah.
Isn't the septic of Board of Health, 100 feet, isn't that a Board of Health?
They just did away with that.
That's
Oh,
50
okay.
feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, right with the state code now, 50 feet.
Which might be a reason why we're seeing a bit of an uptick in applications.
Yep. Yeah, right,
So
because
what-
at 100 feet.
Just tell him outline the variances he needs for this project.
Yeah, so what do you need for variances from us?
Just to allow the house to be 28 feet from the edge of wet, and the septic, I'm sorry, and the septic to be 50.6, just those 2. 28 for the house and 50.6 for the septic.
What about the deck, Norman?
The deck would be a little closer. project ends on 25.3 of the closest plan, 25.3.
Is the A and M already done on this one?
It was not, that was also in my email to Norm. I never got a response, but it looks like Norm's answering them all now.
But I'm not looking for the board to vote tonight. I think we need some time to think about it.
No, yeah, right, we just wanna present it and,
So I have a
Is
cover
there a-
letter and the
AP number?
minimization.
yeah, it was
and-
on the, 0901.
This is just a cover letter which basically talks about the existing conditions being with the wetlands and the ledge, and then the proposed condition being where the house would go. And the minimalization report is attached to that cover letter. Sorry, I think we had last week, we had this.
Incorrect spelling
I
here.
understand about being busy.
Looks like something I typed.
I'm seeing this now just as you are.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna
I
have to
haven't
continue it
had
anyway.
to review any of the revisions. I think it's best to continue, and I can read, Mr. Hill's, report and the revisions to the plan and return to it in a couple weeks.
Okay, before we continue, does anybody from the board have any questions? Does anybody from the audience have any questions?
Yeah, I'm concerned about.
Could you just, state your name and address?
Absolutely. Kristen Clark, 303 Putnam Hill.
Okay.
I'm concerned about the placement in reference to where my driveway is, and I'm also concerned about the setbacks from the wetlands. With the recent development that we've had west of my house, I've noticed significant changes in the wetlands. I've also noticed significant changes in the quality of my water.
Really?
Yes.
Your drinking water?
Yes, my drinking water.
Wow.
My pressure's down, yeah, so,
Do you have a well?
yes, I do.
You need to go to the Board of Health with that. That's a major concern if you think your water quality is
Oh, yeah,
changing.
it has.
Have you had it tested?
No,
I would do that. Oh, I think Home Depot does it for free.
yeah.
I would do that, and then if there's an issue, definitely go to the Board of Health.
So I'm just concerned about that. There are significant wetlands, not only on, the, what it looks like the southwestern side of Putnam Hill, which is on the on this lower piece of property, but also on my side. And I've just seen a change in how things are going. Plus, the wetlands that come down, the new houses are further up the road from this, have, I know, impacted the drainage. We have significant runoff now that then comes over the house that has sold this property and then courses down through the property that we're now talking about.
So the wetlands are expanding, you think? Okay.
And so I'm concerned about that whole issue there. I've walked back behind there before. There's a significant amount before it truly rises back up again.
Okay. And are you a direct abutter to this property, or?
I live right across the street.
Right across the street, okay.
Did you say 303?
303, yeah.
All right.
So I'm concerned about that. Plus, I'm also, my other concern too is, given this side, so we're residential, rural residential.
Mhm.
And I'd love to see that stay rural residential. Putting houses closer to the street, I think changes the look of this side of the street.
Unfortunately, we can only
I
deal with
know.
the conservation part of it.
I understand, but ultimately, my concern is about the wetlands and the quality of water.
Okay. We appreciate your input. Thank you. Is there anybody else? Yes, Norman?
Yes, I'm curious as to what the concern is about the driveway, because I have the ability to reposition the driveway. You could ask.
I'm just concerned where the placement of the driveway is in reference to the placement of our driveway, because that is, as you're approaching the curve, people come up there sometimes at 50 miles an hour. I don't wanna have a three-way accident. There's only almost been a two-way accident before. So I'm just curious where the placement of that driveway would be in
Yeah.
reference to our property.
That's really not our
I
board
know,
either.
I know,
Okay.
I'm just, since
Alright.
he's here, I'm putting it to
I gotcha. I gotcha. I can't force him to
I know.
answer it and change it here,
I know.
though, okay?
I understand. I'm
Can I
just-
just ask for the record, it is a buildable lot, Norman, right? It's all
Yes.
approved A&R lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I
Alright.
just, so to keep it rural, which has nothing to do with conservation, unfortunately, we can't
I know,
stop
I
building.
understand, but ultimately, my concern is for one, the wetlands, and two, the water quality,
Okay.
which is huge.
We have your,
Because I've noticed, just side note, I've noticed changes to the streams around there, especially around the school, with runoff, what smells like sewage.
really? Yeah, I would definitely, if I were you, be in contact with the Board of Health ASAP.
Mhm.
Um, especially if you get a sewage smell and you
Yeah,
think
I'll
water
talk
quality's
to
changing.
Cheryl, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
I also have to go out and verify the wetland boundaries,
Yep.
correct?
Right.
I was waiting for Norm's response from back in July before I even went back out there, because technically it'd be a complete application, we need the impact avoidance and minimization statement, so I was just holding off on everything.
Is this lot cleared already? Doesn't
Is
show
this
it
lot
straight.
still wooded or is it cleared?
Still wooded, it's all
Still
wooded,
wooded.
the whole lot is wooded.
Just a question, so, I scanned it real quick, and you say that we are not proposing any work that will have a negative impact on any resource area, so we are not proposing any mitigation. I think when you cut trees down and you're within 100 feet, you have to, I think that you need to take a look at that, I might be wrong, but
Mr.
if you
Chairman,
wanna
can I read in my comment?
Yes, sir.
Excuse us.
When it comes to measuring.
Sir.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
So I sent Mr. Hill an email on July 26, 2019. It reads, "Good morning, Norman. I've given the NOI a preliminary review, and at this time, the commission will require an impact avoidance and minimization statement. Please follow the instructions on the attached document. It includes an existing conditions narrative, proposed conditions narrative, and in parentheses, please quantify impacts, including how many greater than 5-inch diameter trees will be felled in the buffer zone / AWRA, and parentheses. Answer the questions posed, propose mitigation for unavoidable impacts, and show signage at the permanent LOD, along with the details, see attached. I also recommend having the LOD and tree line correspond with each other. Finally, could you please send me a PDF of the plan? If you have a PDF of the NOI package, I would appreciate that as well. Thank you, Brandon."
So we
So
will
that would cover
evaluate-
my question.
That covers Mike's question.
Right, which Mr. Hill did put the sign detail, and I understand there's a new, a report or narrative.
Yeah, we have this here. For the A&M.
What's the date on it?
This is dated August 20th, 19, so yesterday.
It looks like it's 2 pages.
This is the A&M on the back, and this is the narrative.
Okay, I only got
3 pages.
I only got page 1.
Yeah, Brandon.
Thank you.
All right, so I think we know what we need to do, right?
Yes,
So-
so we'll evaluate the trees,
Okay.
perhaps offer some new plantings,
Excellent.
all right?
Yep. Absolutely, and if you have the chance, could you check the water quality in the back of that lot? That's a concern, see if you smell any sewage or,
I will check that.
all right, thank you. I'll take a motion.
Motion to continue to September,
September 4th at 7:30.
Wanda,
September
just so it
4th
doesn't
at
get
7:30.
lost.
This,
Thank you very much, thank you.
I need a,
this is at the
Second.
I need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Have a good night, Norm.
Wanda, this is the plan you gave me, just.
I do not have that folder. When was that?
9/4 at 7:30.
9/4, 7:30. All right. This can go back. All right.
New filing.
Okay. Filing is 7/10/58 Hartnett. Somebody here for 158 Hartnett Road? Okay, excellent. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2019, at 7:10 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Brad and Peg Reganey, Sutton, Mass. The project consists of construction of an upgrade septic system on map 12, parcels 82 on 158 Hartnett Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. All right. Do we have a DP number on this yet, Wanda?
Was it posted for this
No, we don't.
Not yet.
Okay.
And do you, is your application with the Board of Health still pending, or is it issued, or?
Anybody that submitted it, Joyce, just, yeah.
Excuse me, I'm Charles Michaud. I'm a professional engineer in Commonwealth, Massachusetts.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to apologize for speaking out of turn.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's not.
I do it all the
Okay.
time, yeah, no problem, I get it.
What I have here is, the clients are requesting a variance on the setback, for the septic system from the, right now, they show the septic system between the 100-foot and the 50-foot. I received this, I worked with Tim Callahan, the consulting, engineer on, consulting, the president of Block Consulting. Right now, it's understood that they do have a tentative permission to go from the Board of Health for a grandfather clause for a setback that's 52 feet from the well.
Okay, but it's still pending, they haven't
It's
approved
still
it yet?
pending,
Okay.
correct. And right now, we're looking at the Conservation Commission,
Mhm.
You folks, for relief from that buffer.
Okay.
Okay?
I think that the new leach field is plenty far away from the BBW. I think that the biggest issue is
Do we have a copy of
is
this
a
plan?
Board of Health variance being 52 feet from the existing
Right.
well, that's all.
That's the biggest issue.
That's a big issue.
That's
There's no,
Board of Health.
there's no issue with distance to the wetland. In
Okay.
fact, there's a pool there
The pool is
that is
being-
gonna be filled in order to accommodate the new system.
Okay.
So, and they have a lawn that already goes,
Just like to see the plan
pretty
real
far
quick.
back, so.
Wanda, do you have a plan on this we could see, just briefly, make sure?
You don't have a plan?
No, we don't have a copy of the plan.
Well, let me see what I can do here.
There's one. Oh, wait a minute, this is the wrong one.
There we go. This first, so
Oh,
everybody.
I gave you the wrong one, Jack.
Brandon, can I ask you, if they're not an area of our jurisdiction?
That's the wrong one. That's the
Well,
wrong
they
one.
are.
Oh, they still are, okay.
They still are,
That's the wrong one.
but ever since the Board of Health did away from with the requirement, with the absolute requirement that the leach field has to be 100 feet away, the state standard is 50 feet. So as long as they're 50 feet away from the BBW, they meet the standard for Title V in regards to wetland protection. And they're more than 50 feet away, and the existing lawn. I did send Tim Callahan a couple of comments when he sent in the revised plan,
Basin.
which were fairly minor.
We're missing.
He mislabeled a couple of trees as oaks when they're really maples, which is no big deal. But there's also a couple of trees in the buffer zone in the area of the leach field.
Is this the wrong plan?
That he didn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
same.
try this again. Okay. Okay.
Well, one of them already was. Recently. And
This
one
is
of
a new
them
septic.
is gonna have to be.
Yeah,
the one
this is a replacement. Yeah.
So the only comment
Okay.
really is just
Alright.
that you're
Inside
gonna
there,
have to
outside
plant
50.
two saplings to replace the two.
Sure, that's pretty good.
You don't have a choice.
Yes. No.
That was put in the best
Right.
spot.
Brandon, we don't have a DEP number. Has anyone checked on this in the past few days? 'Cause unfortunately, we can't close it out, right?
Let me check to see.
Right,
if
so
there's
this is
anything.
where
I'd love
they
to
have a
close it
fight
out
with,
today if we can.
Mr. Burley here.
Can we close it without having it? No, just can't do it.
Just can't.
Why are they so slow lately? It's crazy.
Because it's been
that?
so busy.
Is that what it is?
Oh, what is this? Go away.
Remember that?
Who's that?
Pollution?
Go away. Go away. What in the world?
Oh, you got pop-ups, Brandon.
I know.
You need a pop-up, you need a pop-up blocker.
Yes, I do.
You have a.
Bruce,
Yeah.
help. Oh, come on. I don't even, how do you get rid of that?
Wait for a good one to pop up.
I know. It would be nice if it was something interesting.
This is the one in back of Brody's where
Yes.
there was an issue before. Has that all been,
Yeah, she's asking me about the Brody situation. Excuse me?
has that all been rectified?
Yes.
I don't know what he made out of it.
He hasn't put up any more chains on our land.
Oh, I remember that, yeah. Wait, what happened?
I thought you were referring to what, between he and,
This is good,
Nigel.
right.
Yeah.
If we have a DEP number, I wanna close it.
Well, that really has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, not this anyway.
My only comment, Mr. Chairman, is
Yes, sir.
that there were a couple of trees in the buffer zone that are gonna be coming down as a result of the leach field, reconstruction. So, the policy's been for every 5-inch diameter or greater tree that comes down, plant 2 saplings in their place somewhere else in the buffer zone. So I think that'd be appropriate as the only condition. Otherwise, this is a no-brainer.
How many trees were, it was 2?
Does it matter that one of the trees actually fell and was removed after it fell?
That does matter.
So that's what happened, it fell on the fence.
We'll take your word for it.
The tree
That was in
It
the,
did burn,
that
yeah.
was brought up before in the other issue, remember the,
That
it was
no,
leaning.
different tree.
Oh, another tree?
I'm
Okay.
just trying to look quick and see if I can find
Yeah,
this
fell on the
DEP
pool,
number.
right?
It's a minor thing.
On the
anyway,
fence,
so
it
just
was,
didn't-
All right, so-
Actually, they both fell on the pool area on.
So one tree.
One tree?
I'm completely fine with it, but without a
Right.
DEP number, I hate to make it.
Yeah, we can't,
I'm trying to find the number now.
DEP number that we're talking about?
Yeah, the DEP is, the Conservation Commission issues the permit, but the DEP has the right of first review, and they're the ones that issue the permit numbers.
So without that number that's pending approval, we can't close you out.
Right.
It's a crazy thing, because you probably would already be gone tonight.
We do have the number now.
You
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the permit number?
It's gotta be a 303 number.
No,
032, permit S-19,
no,
no, that must be the Board of Health.
Yeah.
plan number.
We're up,
Oh,
at-
that's-
we're up,
that's-
at- we're up in the
that's number?
19s. Let me check,
I couldn't find it. Yeah, I'll have to bookmark that webpage, Brandon, when you pull it up.
marks, DEP file numbers.
Do you know when you applied for it?
I don't.
Have you applied for it?
I think it was 2 weeks.
August 5th.
August 5th.
Yeah.
158 hardness does not have a number, it's blank.
There are 3 of them.
So we're gonna have to continue, and that's the only thing, we won't need him to come back in, would we?
Someone really should be here.
You want somebody here?
Just if we have the number,
Once you get the number, we'll put on, the commission looks like we're gonna put a condition to replace one tree in the buffer zone as a special condition, and then that'll be it.
All right, take a motion to continue.
Make a motion to continue to September 4th,
September 4th at 7:40 PM.
7:40 PM.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your name again, sir, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry,
Your name again, sir?
Charles,
Sorry about the no DEP.
AU.
Sorry.
No, I mean, just that he's gonna come back.
So enough, you know that.
Is anybody here for cold water fisheries update? 720 Peter Coffin, Zap the Blackstone?
Make a motion to continue 7:20.
What table is that?
No, no. Get him off the agenda because this is the
Yeah.
second or third time.
Wanda?
Need the plan? I'm gonna take it off the agenda.
Yeah, take it right off the agenda.
I can't show up, sorry.
I didn't realize this was the second one. I agree with you.
Third time.
Third time?
Agenda is at 7:30, it's 7:28, so let's see what we got here. All right.
Supposedly we have the number for that.
I'd like to bang up this
See
room.
that here.
Wanna do the
But that's
next
not
one?
the, that's not.
It's, we've got a couple minutes to go.
No, it's close enough.
All right, give me a minute to fix.
All right, fix that.
What do you want?
I
What's that? Candies. Oh, yeah, those are great. Those are like the caramel coffee ones.
I think you bring
Oh,
that, yeah.
oh, yeah, with,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I did a house on Rocky Road, we rushed off. Yeah, he lives there, he designed the road, it was like his little beat, you know?
Yeah,
one
yeah,
day.
yeah.
How are you?
Put that, permit number chart back on. Hold that for a minute? Yep.
This is the only information I have on this one, that's the
Okay.
letter that was sent out.
All right.
that one doesn't have a number either.
See that?
Yeah, this, yeah, I know.
Is Grant Woodward here?
No.
Can we table this till the end of the meeting, please?
Make a motion to table 134 Leland Hill to the end of the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we have plenty of time.
What's after that?
125 Silverberry.
Wanda, can you take this back and lose it so I don't get in trouble for losing it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, 740, we don't get that. Okay. Back to, board business. We're looking for a, COC for 78 Hutchinson Road. Rob Judson?
Yeah, somebody did a site visit on that?
Yeah, I did a site visit. I sent out the pictures. So that site, only the front portion of the driveway is actually in the buffer zone. And the other big thing on that plan that I noticed was there's a retention pond to go in the back for the runoff. And that was all stable and good. Some parts of the lawn outside of the buffer zone were not great yet, but everything that I think we're concerned with was done properly. I did send out the pictures.
So can this be signed?
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance with 78 Hutchinson Road.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, can I bring up some unexpected business, something I noticed before, I wanted to mention it before I forget.
Yeah, absolutely.
Construction of 285 Putnam Hill Road. It's a Romeo Gianni project.
Okay.
I drove by and noticed that construction had begun. So I went there and took a look at it, and the foundation is in. They had replaced the little culvert over the intermittent stream. Do you all remember this one?
Mhm.
With the long driveway?
Can I just hold you for 1 second, Brandon? Wanda, can we just have the paperwork to sign for the COC for this 78 Hutchinson before we forget it? I'm sorry, I don't.
I get it. Double multitasking.
Okay, now we're good. Go ahead, Brandon.
No pre-construction meeting. It was never called.
Enforcement order.
Yeah. Everybody
285
that's,
Putnam Hill Road.
everybody that's been building in this area knows how we work, and I think it's pretty simple, step by step, and that's why we have a consultant. It's important to us that our consultant goes out before the project starts, so.
And it's not
I
the
know
first
my
rodeo.
memory's not perfect, but I don't remember doing a pre-construction meeting here. Does anyone else remember doing like a erosion control inspection or anything like that?
Nope.
Nope.
Did it look like any erosion controls were in?
I have pictures of it.
Not an excuse, but
I was there on the 7th. This is the new crossing.
There's gonna be a lot of plans. Signatures, did everybody sign the plan too? Chris, did you guys sign the plan as well?
Oh, no, 'cause I-
That's okay.
So that looks like it was done a while, I mean,
I'll do that for like 3 years.
it's heavily vegetated. Were they able to do,
And-
Yeah.
Well, I think that, you should just sign the
I
plan.
think this is pretty simple.
No erosion controls.
I'll take a motion to issue an enforcement order
make
for
a
this
motion to
project.
issue an enforcement order for
And assist,
285 Pleasant Hill Road.
but a cease and desist.
I wouldn't go that far, let's just do the enforcement order. Sometimes that, when you halt the project, they don't do anything, I'd rather see them set the erosion controls up and continue on.
Who's the second?
Well, what is gonna be your specific orders in the enforcement order? What are you specifically asking?
Need to set up a, pre-construction meeting immediately, and all erosion controls must be put into place.
How about a time limit, and then a cease and desist?
Yeah.
7 days? Enough? Too much?
Can you get there within 7 days
Can I get there within 7 days?
to do a
Well, he'd have to call you within 7 days instead
Yeah,
of.
so, and we gotta mail the thing out.
I probably, if it gets done before the next meeting,
14,
which
Right.
is September 4th.
So we'll
probably-
put
If we said it this way, ceased activity until you're in compliance and you've had your site inspection.
Okay.
And then if he doesn't comply and he keeps building, then you would, that way he can just fix it and
Is-
schedule it with Brandon, put his erosion controls in, schedule his pre-construction meeting. And if he, I'm sure he'll do it. He's not gonna want us to shut his project down and fine him.
I don't wanna fine them, but I
I
just
think the
wanna
quickest way is just,
send the enforcement order.
yeah, say you got,
Set,
you set an amount of time, give him 7 days to be compliant.
Jay?
I'm agreeing with Mike to a degree. I think we give him a time limit, and then after that, if he still hasn't either set up the meeting with Brandon or had the meeting, then we do the cease and desist. Yeah.
Okay.
Just in all my years, I don't ever remember him actually coming in front of us as the board himself.
He did.
Did he?
He's been there a couple
I
times.
feel like it's typically the engineer would,
I don't think he's ever spoken at a meeting, but I've seen
okay,
him again.
I just,
He has, we had to chase him for his house when he was building over here. And he ignored a whole bunch of letters, and we finally got him to come in.
All right. Is Wanda going to get a enforcement order?
I'm guessing. And she wasn't here to write down all the specifics of what you wanted in the enforcement order, so.
Nicole, did you write it down?
Set up a pre-construction meeting and set erosion controls.
Within
Yeah,
7
within 7
days.
days. Perfect.
Or cease and desist.
Or a cease and desist, yeah.
We'll be issued, what, after 7 days?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Mike's idea, that's a good idea. I just hate immediately shutting a project down when they could be
I
setting.
agree 100%.
setting
All
them
we
up,
want
you
is the
know.
fence up
Right.
and do his pre-construction meeting.
We're trying to do our job.
I agree, but it does seem like this is not the first time and, you know,
Yeah, I was working under the assumption that this was the first time that he had not.
Well, regardless, we don't wanna bring up
no, yeah, this,
past issues.
yep, so you're right.
While we're waiting for,
I went to
Oh, we
6
can't.
Sovereign Heights today.
oh, can we, yeah, well, then we can go over this, yep.
I went to 6 Sovereign Heights. I had looked at it last fall, and there were bare spots, so we had put it on hold, but I went up there this morning, and everything's fine.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 6 Sovereign Heights.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Wanda, did you get an enforcement order? And also, can we have the plan and the paperwork for 6 Sovereign Heights?
There you go.
You want a copy of Nicole's?
Yeah. Why don't you write it, Joyce, because you can actually read my writing?
Here's 6, just
I mean,
keep
your
it
writing,
on.
not my
Just
writing?
keep it on.
All right.
It's not named, but it flows into Dark
Yep.
Brook eventually.
So it's not.
Brackets around.
Just, should one of us do an inspection in 7 days?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Completely dry.
So how would we know he's not in compliance?
What's 7 days from today, the 28th?
Yeah.
So it would be, well, you can do September,
No, no.
Give him
we-
8 days, you could not count today, do 7,
or you
give it
do
the
them 1
benefit
month,
of the-
or?
No,
No,
we're
it's
talking-
7 days from today.
We're talking about doing an inspection. 28th.
Well, if you're under 10, I think you can only count business days. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, the way it works in the brain of the state is
Weekends
that
don't
if it's
count.
10 days or less, it's business days.
Okay.
If it's more than 10 days, it's just 10 days, 10.
It would be September 5th, because you got a holiday in there.
Okay. Hey Siri, can you remind me to do an inspection on Putnam Hill Road on September 5th? All right, well done.
Perfect.
Excellent. Technology.
Hopefully she remembers.
Hopefully Siri remembers.
If not, I will.
She's been slacking.
This is, 6 Sovereign. What about
I'll remind you.
Oh, yeah, you'll remember. I don't remember anything.
So did you,
Secret of life is
did you
shopping.
determine that 7 days is 7 business days?
Yes, we just,
Yeah,
So that
September
would be-
fifth. September 5th.
September
But you
5th.
have to excuse
Someone will do a
the
site.
Labor Day.
Yeah, well, so that's September 5th.
September 5th, yeah. That's 6 Sovereign Heights, COC.
What about the other one there?
how long does it take to
50, 58?
contact them? Because by
Which
the
one?
time is that something you do by email, Wanda, or do you actually call?
We didn't sign.
We can send the police out.
We haven't done that one
I
yet.
don't wanna do that.
Somebody else is gonna have to do it.
Oh, we
I'm not
did?
here till Monday.
Oh.
That's what I'm just saying, we just gave this guy 7 business days, but how long is he, like, from tonight? How long before he'll know that we're looking for this to be done? What is that process?
Well, I'll have to see if I can mail it out tonight. I
So
don't
it
know
has
if
to
it's
be
gonna
by mail?
mailed tomorrow.
Can you scribble on this,
It'll be
Joyce?
mailed out tonight.
I hope I don't scribble.
Unfortunately, I won't be here.
I
for
pride
most of
myself
the
on
day.
my scribble. Wanda, could we have the paperwork, just so we can sign
Plan.
it real quick for 50 to 58 Lackey Mill? Oh, yeah, we need the plan for that, too. There it is.
You got it?
We have the plan on that one we need to sign.
So it was a little vague for me, so
I
she's
put
not
no
gonna be in until
pre-construction
Monday
meeting was
next week.
conducted per regulations. Set up a pre-construction meeting with erosion controls within 7 days, which would be September 5th, or a cease and desist will be issued. Thank you, Nicole.
Can I have my
This
other
is the one we
sheet
just
then?
did, don't sign it. Sick, very soft.
I think my chair's gonna break.
Joyce, is that what it is?
If it finally lets go.
Is there a way you can come in tomorrow and get the information, because I'm not here?
Alright.
If you can do that, get the information, write it on in, and then have somebody downstairs
What
make a
information?
copy.
This?
Yeah, I don't have an owner or nothing.
It'd be as simple as a phone call, do we have he has an open file,
What's the issue?
so the process to notify this guy who has 7 days to get in compliance, it's probably gonna take 7 days to get him the notice.
Which one you talking
Oh,
about?
from the-
So I'm saying, can it be as simple as a phone call? He has to have a number on file, here's an open order of conditions.
That's true, but enforcement order makes it more official, and it's
Yeah.
a record, it creates a record.
Oh, no, I didn't say
Well, it
not
has
to
to
send
be-
it, but at least notify him.
Yeah, it's- that it's coming.
The enforcement order was sent, he has
Yeah,
till
it
this
has to
date to
be-
be in compliance. I, in the past, have gotten calls from conservation if something wasn't right, and it was the quickest way to run, immediate,
Yeah.
We're nice enough not to shut him down.
Yeah, so this is the
I think he
signature
should be
page,
nice
we
enough
have
to
find
just
the
get his
plan.
fence up. I mean, I'll make the phone call if it's appropriate and everybody thinks. I just want him to get the fence up as quick as he can, that's all I
Right,
care
right,
about.
right. I get you. Where is the plan on this one?
Which one's that?
Lackey
Dam? Lackey Dam.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's-
this was the whole book.
The whole-
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
alright, so we missed that.
That was that, oh, what happened at that
Tie
point,
and
you
bond.
just need to sign the certificate because nobody signed it at the last meeting.
Okay, nobody signed the plan either, should we all sign this plan?
Yeah.
Alright,
Let me check my pen.
sign on that page. And then,
Actually, I haven't.
where's the signatures page on this?
It's on the front.
Is it on the front?
Yeah.
Joyce, can you sign the
Yeah, you can
signature
sign
page,
it.
and I'll get Okay, and this is for 78 Torrey, right? Nope, Lackey Dam. Lackey Road, yeah.
We got to sign it last time.
Okay. All right.
We are at 125 Singletary Ave.
Yeah, 125 Singletary.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 125 Singletary Ave.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome.
Hi, John Maderas, Andrews Survey here on behalf of Gianni Romeo, 125 Singletary Ave. And I'm here here in front of you today with an as-built. It's
We have not received our DEP number, did not receive his DEP number.
We have it.
Yes, it's 0895.
Yep.
So, this is what I have. I visited the site a few days ago, rehung, put up the pink flags, found all the old flags from VSC, and we're here now. The septic's been built. There's a driveway in there. He has gone and cleaned up the property, get rid of all the farm waste. The site does look good, it's vegetated, there's nothing running off into the wetland. This is what we have. I believe the public hearings has never been closed. So this is what I'm in front of you with tonight, He has not, as far as the 25-foot no disturb, he has stayed further away than what was proposed in areas. There's an area right here that he's gone into the 25-foot no disturb. Everywhere out in another area here, everywhere else, he stayed well out of it. Right now, I mean, we can go out, like I said, the site's vegetated, nothing running off into the wetland. We can go out and as-built it, show the vegetation line, and certificate of compliance, I'm not sure what
I was
to
just
do
gonna
with
say,
this.
I'm confused here. So why are you here tonight? Just for a project update? Or are you looking for guidance from us how to close it out?
Guidance from you how to close it out.
Okay.
Continuation, yeah.
So it's a so is all the work done?
No.
Pretty much.
So all the work's done? And
Yes.
you would feel comfortable writing a letter of substantial compliance?
Yes. Yes.
But isn't this for,
Isn't this for 125?
it's for an NOI.
This is an
It's for the
NOI.
NOI, not a,
So
it's
you
for
But
the
it's our,
NOI.
so it's done, but we're
He
opening
did
an
work
NOI.
without filing.
Oh.
Got caught.
Okay, I didn't understand. Okay, so we get caught doing
Sorry.
something we didn't have to do. I'm sorry, I didn't understand what we
There
were.
was a land exchange with a neighbor,
Okay.
is that all complete?
That's all complete, yes, the A&R is all complete. So we had to widen the driveway, because they were looking for 18 feet instead of 12, because it's a common driveway.
Yeah, but I believe there was work done on that common driveway before you got the NOI, was that?
There
I
was.
saw the excavator in there
Yeah.
before
So
you
just
had
give us
the
a little
NOI.
update. You were there 4 days ago. What's that roadway look like? Is there pictures of it?
Look, I
Because
don't
that's
have
the only
pictures,
thing
but
I
it
see
looks
is-
good. No erosion.
Right, but it's open dirt, right?
No, he's paved right here in the red.
Well, just from the street, I see a big dirt road that goes out back with, it looks
Yeah,
like
not-
hydro
not
seed
up in-
pavement.
Right, this has not been built yet for the other lot up
But
in
it's
the
open
back.
dirt right now, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
where's the edge of wetland? I didn't see any erosion controls.
Edge of wetlands right here, there's some erosion control right here.
So he hasn't got the NOI yet, but they've been doing work there.
Got it. All right.
So what's his plan to stabilize that roadway? Because where's the 100-foot buffer zone?
Well, before we,
Where does it go through where's
I
100
think
feet?
this is similar to what we just did.
There's the 50 right here, and then the 100
So that whole roadway's in the,
is running right up here.
so what's in place for erosion control?
Yeah, we gotta start with a pre-construction meeting and Brandon needs to go
Yeah,
there and see
yeah.
We did
what's
that.
Oh, we did that. How did we do that? We don't have
Are
an,
we talking about 125 Singletary?
Yes.
This is a notice of intent.
right,
This
Yes.
still needs to be approved.
it's,
Yeah.
right,
So this is up for vote, for
right,
approval.
right.
So,
We're not even at that point yet.
right, so I had created a couple of memos on this with comments that, if I remember from the last meeting, Mr. Burris, you've been so busy you hadn't been able to get to them, but, I'm guessing that you haven't at this point.
I have gotten to them at this point.
Now, I'm at a disadvantage because I don't think that I've seen the new plan or any response to the comments at this point to know that, you know, what you've done to try to address the comments.
we've addressed all of them that were on the memo. All the pink flags have been hung, they've all been reflagged with pink. I remarked them. Just go down a little bit further on it and it showed the limit of clearing as it exists right now.
Okay.
The pink flagging that you had on the south, we have that, it's
trees.
right there.
So, anyway, at this point, I haven't had an opportunity to review the most recent plan or go out to the site to make sure that everything jives.
Okay,
So I, you know, per the policy,
right, 2 weeks.
I think it would be appropriate to go one more.
You and I were out there.
We
The
were out,
pre-
yes,
Like
we
a
were.
pre-construction meeting, yeah.
We were on there on May 30th.
For a pre-construction meeting?
No, for
Oh,
an
okay.
NOI review.
Okay,
meeting.
okay,
For
all right.
NOI review
Yeah.
inspection.
I got you, okay.
So I wrote a couple of memos, one before I even went out there, just based on what I saw on the original plan. And then when Joyce and I went out to the site to walk around, it came up with 7 new comments.
Did you take a picture of how many trees were on the lot? Did you take pictures while you were
I
there?
have pictures of the lot, I'll go through it all.
Well, we don't have to go through it now, we
Okay.
can compare
So when did we
afterwards.
get these plans? This is the first we're seeing them?
It's the first time seeing
I'd like to make a motion to continue this to September 4th at 7:50.
PM.
You have a copy for me, John?
This is just.
I need a second on that?
So just before we continue that,
Let me, I will get it.
Yeah, send me a
He's
PDF.
been doing work there.
so,
Yeah.
there's so much to understand. Cause
What was the time on it?
so where's the existing conditions plan?
7:50.
It's been going, this one's been going forward kinda haphazard. And the work already started on the site before the NOI was even submitted. I go out there, see the work, some of it's unauthorized work in the buffer zone. Come up with a number of comments, and Mr. Maderos now has an as-built of, it's not even, it's like a draft, it's not a, you know,
Is that more of an existing conditions report than an
Existing
as-built?
conditions.
it's more of an
Yes.
existing conditions. So it just needs to be formalized, and I need to review it to see if the comments that I had were even addressed. And that's gonna involve probably another walk out to the site. So I think things need to slow down a little bit.
Okay.
Give it another couple weeks for me to do my review and John to finalize his plan. But there's I have
So
some
between now and
frustration.
then, I don't see a stitch of erosion control. Like this,
Does have some erosion control right up here on that dirt drive.
so is that edge that's left wide open, is it
It's all
protected from
vegetated
runoff?
down here.
Nothing can go wrong? No, the driveway, the right of way to the back lot. That's
Right.
open dirt.
The erosion control,
So start at the street with me,
okay.
right? There's an 18-foot wide driveway that goes to the
Yes.
back lot.
Yes.
Looks like it's pretty well on its way to being done. Correct? You were just there 4 days ago,
It's
correct?
already paved.
It's already paved.
Without any permission.
Already paved.
See, this is, I have some frustration with this, Mr. Chairman, is like, Mr. Romeo is doing the work while the permit process is going on.
I'd actually
So
like
what
to
did he do
withdraw
for
my
stormwater
motion,
management
and I've
from-
never done this. I'd like to make a motion to issue a cease and desist on this project.
I'll second it.
And I've never done it.
All
but-
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright, can we have a cease and desist order for this? And an enforcement order, probably too?
And this is nothing against you, but this is just,
It's too much, I didn't even know where we were starting, we have an as-built plan, but for an NOI, it doesn't make any sense, I would.
Paved an 18-foot
We started backwards, that's why I was so
wide road to
confused, so.
another lot.
So we're gonna cease and desist this, and we gotta start from scratch, it's gotta be brand new by next meeting, Brandon's gotta go out there, alright, we're gonna send an enforcement
Now,
order.
Brandon, wouldn't we need a plan that
Another
mitigates
enforcement order,
18
you can
feet
tell him
wide
about
of
both of them.
asphalt?
Well,
How
here's
does
the
that
thing
all
is
work?
that
Well, I don't wanna put him
the
on the
construction is
spot.
going
He
on
doesn't have to be our messenger.
during the NOI process.
Okay.
Pretend there was no construction done. What would the plan look like that we would usually approve?
Alright.
I
For
need
this
to see,
project.
I need to see I've already reviewed
Mr. Maderos,
the original
do me
plan.
a favor.
Came up with a
Yes.
bunch of comments. I haven't even seen any of the revisions yet.
Can you
And at the
just
same time, there's still construction going on at the site.
change the wording on that, please, to say existing conditions report instead of as-built, and then
Sure.
that'll
I
just
guess what I'm getting at,
clear my.
where's the accountability for what went on in this
That's
lot?
why I just made
I'll be the
some
one to
sense.
say it out loud.
Right, okay. Well,
Enough is enough. 2 in a row tonight, come on. And I'm the easiest going guy sitting here.
no, I don't think so.
All right, second easiest.
Definitely one of the top two.
I don't like doing that, and I'm pro
No,
construction,
no,
but I-
that's-
it's-
that's
it's
not-
just-
that's not what I'm
it's
here,
not
but
fair
this-
to the people
Paved?
that-
If we're
You
all
got-
confused over
paved?
what's going on, we can't. We gotta start from,
I
we
agree.
gotta start from scratch.
I agree.
Okay.
So when they come back in 2 weeks, they're gonna come with a plan that'll address
Can you write this one?
everything that we should address.
Right.
So if we got 18 feet of pavement and they wanna keep
Is that
it,
the
how
cease
are
and
they gonna
desist?
make that
Or that's
comply
enforcement?
with all our
Enforcement.
regulations?
Like, it's just getting ahead
Cease and
of
desist
where
is-
I'm
Oh,
even
that's
at
part of it, right?
at this point.
Unauthorized
What we
work.
can
you
do
know.
is we can address the
Without an NOI.
comments, which I went out and flagged it
All
and
one will
everything,
stop.
What-
and just overlay the
Right.
as-built.
So, right, well, you gotta come up with the, you know, what we call the conservation plan for approval. I know it's
I'd
an
also like to see
as-built,
the owner
but it
here.
still hasn't
Yeah, I
been
would
approved.
agree.
He
It
needs to
hasn't been
stand
approved.
there, and
I
if
know.
he's the owner
You
of
can
record
understand
pulling all the
frustration.
permits and he just thinks he can do
Absolutely.
whatever he
I mean,
wants in his town.
everybody else has to
I'd
go
like to
through
see
the
him stand
permitting
here and tell
process
me that.
before they start work.
I think a slip should go down a building that the
So,
citizens has been audited.
What I would appreciate if you could, I know you're busy,
Yeah.
Wanda,
you're obviously gonna make the changes
can you
to the
grab me a
plan
routing slip
based on the comments.
to send down a
But
building?
it's so much more helpful
Let's do one thing at a time.
when you actually, do like with the planning board where you have the question and then
Housework
underneath
is
like
all
in
done.
italics with the response.
With the response,
No need
yes.
for the building.
That would be wonderful if you could do that, please.
We will do that.
Way more than that.
Okay, thank you.
So everything with that is done? Oh, okay. I guess everything with building is completed.
Oh, okay.
But I've got unauthorized work being done without approval.
Yeah, just owner must appear in person at next meeting.
And when's he on the agenda for? Is it continued for 2
Yeah,
weeks?
we-
Is that how that works with the
Fourth
season?
at 7:50.
So we need to continue this.
Make a
That-
motion to continue to,
Seven.
September 4th at 7:50?
7:50, yeah.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
September 4th at 7:50.
Yep. Make it like a notice to appear.
It's gonna be incumbent on you guys who are around more often than I am to police it, and if you see anybody working, you're gonna have to go in there and stop them.
Okay, we gotta put that cease and desist on here, so we know.
Isn't that on the second page? Isn't there a section for
Might be
that?
on the second
Yeah.
page.
Order, maybe it's on the third. I swear one of these we did, I saw a section for cease and desist. No further work. Right here.
Is there 2 addresses to this property now? That it's created as a separate lot?
Of intent.
No.
Or is it still one lot? These 2 lots?
There are 2 lots. Right,
So I
right
think we
now,
should make sure
currently
it's covering
lot
both
1 and
pieces of
2.
property.
Just check the fourth and then maybe it's not there.
I agree with that.
No, check the fourth page.
This
I
one's being
swore, I
lot one,
thought there was a
one up
section
and
for
back
cease and
would be lot
desist,
two.
but
Well,
it,
this just says no further work shall be performed
Not sure
until
if they
public.
assigned
But there's no
a
box to
number
check for
it.
that.
It's 125A or.
so just put cease and, write cease and desist on it.
Andrew, there's 2 lots here, so make sure we cover that there's no work on either lot.
Okay.
Yeah, sign it.
What are the 2 addresses?
It's 125 is lot 1. Currently, all I know is it's deemed lot 2 up in the back, so I don't know if. they're
Brandon, do you have the
going to
GIS real quick? You can
25A or maybe they.
pull it, see if you find an address for that back lot.
Oh, yeah, I don't, has it been recorded yet?
Either that or a lot
A&R's
number.
been recorded. I don't know if they've updated it.
We were going so good there.
Just a second here.
Cease and desist on either lot 125, which is lot 1, and lot 2, until further notice.
Yep. Let me just
Okay.
see if Brandon has a number for it.
135 single family
135.
Ave, and this one's 125. And there's gonna be that shared driveway that goes through 125.
Okay, so it's 125.
Which I've already agreed that is the right way to do it, because if they came in through their own frontage, they'd have a big wetland crossing. So if
You
it's allowed,
sign first, as
That's
a
the
a
change.
shared driveway is the better way, but it has to
You
get.
wrote it, you can have the honors of signing
Review.
first.
I thought originally
That
this
way you
just
get
had a
things
little
thrown in your
bubble in the
house.
back that
Yes,
was in the
exactly.
buffer
He's
zone.
already-
You just did a small little, didn't, when this first came in front of us a month or so ago, the way I understood the discussion is he had remodeled the little house, did the septic in the back.
Alright,
You and Joyce had done a site visit, and there was just a little bump in the back. And now I see a plan that says the entire lot is in the 100-foot buffer zone.
The entire lot.
can you guys?
No.
Well,
Scan the
the
papers.
septic is outside of it.
I don't want really any more discussion on this, cause it's been
Yeah.
continued, so let's,
Understood.
can you sign the back page of that, please? Zach? Alright, here we are. Wanda, could I have the paperwork for 33 Jones Road, please? Zach has the enforcement order on that. Yeah. Alright, 33 you're all set.
Okay, I'm here for the next one
Oh,
too.
you're here for the next one, excellent.
Oh, wait a minute
Excellent.
now. You handed me two, and I don't have an address on either one.
have
The-
different
that-
things.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, you need
Back
to
up. Okay, hold on.
put address, at least put the address on there.
Location of violation, so this is,
The other one is
The cease and desist is the.
125 and 135.
One's
Single
two
area.
85 and one's 125, but I don't know which is which, so.
And then the
Well,
other one is
it's lot 1 and lot 2, it's on the
Okay.
same thing.
And Brandon, what was the address on the 285?
285 Putnam Hill.
285 Putnam.
285 Putnam Hill Road, yeah.
Okay. Alright. Zach, hand those. Thank you. Alright, 33 Jones Road, the Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 21st, 2019 at 7:50 PM. Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Peter Skitanis, Whitensville, Mass. The project consists of a single-family dwelling, private septic, as well as associated earthwork, utilities, and landscaping within the buffer zone on map 50, parcel 102, lot 1, 33 Jones Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Once again, John and Dallas Andrews survey here on behalf of Pete Scotanas, 33 Jones Road.
Let me just hold you up 1 second.
Yep.
Do you have a DP number yet on this? or
No
Okay.
DEP, I just looked at it and I did not see the.
Pending with the Board of Health?
Yes. Board of Health approved.
It's approved. Okay, anything with planning of the Board of Appeals?
No, A&Rs have been approved, we're all set.
Okay, everything's done.
Yes, yes.
Right, that's planning, okay.
So, single-family home, new construction, off
Abutters.
Jones Road,
Oh, yeah.
Sutton, Massachusetts.
Wanda, do you have the abutters on this?
We've, we kept the septic 100 feet away, had to put it underneath the driveway. We have our stormwater recharge for the roof drains.
I gotta stop you 1 more second, John,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay,
Do you
it's
have the
all-
abutters notices?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, sorry, we just, that's a legal
okay.
thing, yeah.
I'm gonna switch with you, you take those, you don't keep.
Excellent,
three.
all right. Now we're
Okay.
good.
Check it off.
And, so we have the, stormwater recharge for the roof drains in. Septic complies with, Title V. We do have approval from the Board of Health. We proposed a, detention basin, a small detention basin for the driveway, catch any runoff. We've also installed the placards, requested by the board. We have
Installed.
a slurry pit in over here, and we had to keep the house right where it's at with the ledge. We had to move it back a little bit, just for the site, the runoff from the site. I have a few comments here. Having the stone wall that runs east-west, behind the south of the proposed house would be a great reference. We will add that, that has not been addressed. The wetland flag, C-24R was found. The wetland flags have been agreed upon, I believe.
They have, there's just a couple little bit of funkiness going on with the flag numbers, and some were in the field, but not on the plan, and some were on the plan, but not in the field, and so the comment that I had was really to Steve O'Connell.
Yes.
Well, actually, it was to Steve, but Steve's no longer with the company, I
Oh.
know that.
Correct.
Travis Brown just got back to me yesterday.
Yes.
So I had, two series of comments to Steve. The first was on August 11. There were 4 comments, and then there was a second one on it was at 8:15, probably right after 8:15, when I visited the site. There were 3 comments based on my site visit.
August 20th, I have it.
August 20, okay.
That's the one I have here.
So you have that. All right, so my comments were, the first round of comments, in order to help quantify impacts to wildlife habitat in the ORN under the bylaw, the commission usually asks for an accounting of equal to or greater than 5-inch diameter trees to be felled within the LOD. I recommend doing this. I see that there are proposed plantings, but we don't quite have an idea of proportion of plantings to trees removed.
And I guess there's so many trees out there, it's not impossible to count them, but, we can do that. But there are so many, I guess the excess of 100 of them.
I'm not saying that you have to put them all on the plan, but the way everybody else has always done it is going out there and just counting them, going out there with a caliper,
Yep.
counted them. If you know the species, even better, but we need an accounting of just a table of
Okay.
how many trees are out there that are gonna be coming down within the jurisdictional areas.
Okay.
And then the whole idea is to try to help, it helps to quantify. It's not a perfect system, but it's the best one we have so far. And it helps you quantify what the overall impact is gonna be compared to what the mitigation is.
Okay, we can do that. And I'll go out there personally do it.
Okay.
Give species and everything.
The second comment was, please add some more signs along the LOD line. You have them in locations where the lawn is going right up to the 25-foot mark, which is good. However, the policy requires signage wherever you have permanent LOD and the AWRA. I see a number of angle points where signs can be erected at the 100-foot AWRA. The low granite bound signs are fine, given that they will be around lawn. Also, I doubt it will be necessary to put signs next to the ledge outcrop. I mean, the ledge outcrop is just, that's kinda like your, do not go past. 3, feel free to expand the LOD right up to the 100-foot aura next to the street. I still have to verify the wetland boundary, of course, but if you have room, use it. If you do, though, you're going to need some extra signs at the LOD line. One thing you could do is put the LOD up to the 100-foot mark, and if you don't wanna turn it into lawn, put the cheaper 4-foot high signs up in the woods. You'll need an additional detail on sheet 2 for that, your call. Number 4, stormwater runoff in the southwest corner of the house. Thank you very much for the water quality swale to receive stormwater runoff from the driveway, not to mention the Caltech receiving runoff from the roof. That's exactly what the commission is looking for when there is new impervious surface proposed. My question has to do with the driveway and garage, presuming it's in a different watershed than the rest of the house and not going to the Caltech. The grade's telling me that it's going into the lawn and generally towards the A-series wetland in the rear. What can be done, if anything? That was the last of my first round of comments.
And we could propose I was talking with Travis today, we could propose a riprap swale back there. As far as the vegetation, it's already a 3-to-1 slope, so we're thinking that would be sufficient to reduce any sediment getting towards the wetland. We could do either or.
I'll leave it to the engineers.
Okay.
The idea is to try and keep the stormwater from going directly into the well.
think that with the grading we have out there, that'll work. It's shedding this way.
Thank you. And then I had the follow-up on the 20th. Hi Steve, here's the follow-up on the review of this NOI. I visited the site on 8/15/19 and found most of the wetland flags. Here are my comments. 1. Having the stone wall that runs east-west behind, that is south of the proposed house, would be a great reference point. Please add to the plan if you can.
We'll show that. It's not shown on this plan.
That'd be wonderful as a reference point, thank you. 2, the flagging of the C-Series wetland was a bit confusing. Was the flagging updated since the plan was made? The reason why I asked is because I found flag C24R near flag C24. I agree with flag C24R, but it is not shown on the plan.
Once again, we'll show that.
Thank you.
When I go out and visit the site, I'll update all the flags.
I already did my own updated, because that goes to
Okay.
comment number 3, is that the delineator used dark blue flags. That's okay in the wintertime, but in
Yeah.
the summertime, you're looking for dark blue flags in a dark green forest. It's not the easiest thing to do, especially, once they start like desiccating, curling up and falling off, and I'm only looking at the stubs.
The deer eat 'em. Yeah.
Right, so, I prefer pink. It's a manly
They get
color,
Right.
and they really pop out at you.
Right.
So on that series, the C series, I put up my own because I was trying to follow it, and I was having to go back, so I just put up some of my own, so you'll see some of my own on the same spot, just so I can follow it.
Okay.
Right. Anybody from the board have any comments on this? Anybody from the audience? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Jack Sheehan, 26 Jones Road. Could I approach the bench here?
Sure, come on up.
Do you have the plan with the topography, this one?
Yes,
This-
yeah,
I-
that's it.
This, I have questions on the delineation. The area here, this is 2-foot contours, if I'm not,
Correct.
okay. You have 2-foot contours in a sort of broad level area off of Jones Road, yet the wetlands lines are following, long straight lines. That's not what the site looks like during, a period of inundation, during the spring, during the fall. Now, I'm not saying the delineation is off, but I think the delineation is wrong. It's incomplete. Did you go out there, Brandon?
I did, and I reviewed every wetland flag.
And at this time, I would think that really it's just vegetation you're looking at, correct?
Oh, no, I'm looking at everything.
How are the straight lines indicative of an area that's sort of a large depressed area, which I know is flooded for a good portion of the year?
Well, it depends on how many flags you put up. The delineation, you're putting up flags every, 30 feet or so. So, yeah, it's gonna be kinda.
But there's not flags, it'd be
zigzaggy.
30 feet here,
Yeah, but,
not even close.
I did find that they were accurate, though. There's
Would you
one,
say
there's one missing.
The flags could be accurate, would you say that they, do you mind if I ask a question?
Let me put it this way, if anything, I think the C series anyway, was a bit conservative.
The C series is which series? I don't
The
know.
one up by the road.
Okay.
I think they over delineated the area, if anything.
Okay, my concern would be that, not that this is actually even prohibitive, I think, necessarily to the project. The portion of the project that's closer to the road, even if the wetlands are larger than they are, there's a geographic break with the ledge, which is, I believe, where's the ledge? Right here. So even if this is bigger up in the front, it won't necessarily affect the project unless they get closer to the 25 feet down below here, which I think is entirely possible. I don't know when this construction would be to start. So my point is that the flags are few and far apart.
Yeah, but if anything, I think they delineated more than they needed to.
Stipulate that you know better than I do. That's just the way that it looks to me. Secondly.
So there's splitters and there's lumpers. There's the people who put up flags every 10 feet and they get every little nook and cranny. And then there's the people who put up flags every 30 to 50 feet and maybe go a little bit, further out. I think that's what they did in this case. And what they did is they made sure they completely encompassed the wetland area that's inside. So if anything, I think that they over delineated it up there and thereby making sure they encapsulated all the wetland area.
The cross culvert across Jones Road is, not shown on the plan as far as I can see.
I never saw that.
There
Is
should
there
be
a
a
culvert
cross
somewhere?
culvert somewhere in this area here, which is there's another wetland area on the other side of the road.
So you're saying it's connected to a wetland on the
I believe so,
outside?
unless I don't know the exact location of the cross culvert, but I believe that,
That was a further lot, I think that's
Is
a
it
lot
down
further
further?
up.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
What
a
it-
lot
the
further
whole
up.
thing is sort of connected.
We're running like 15 minutes behind
All right.
here,
That's the,
so I
pond
gotta
up.
cut this short.
The stone wall that you note to not be on there, is somewhat,
It's slightly north of that lower wetland series.
which is mapped on the GIS, the GIS map. This big wetland on the back, I believe, is mapped
Okay?
on. I think that may be close to the edge of the stone wall. Once again, and I can't see any of those flags.
Well, they do show a wetland on the GIS, which is about right here, which is more or less where that lower wetland is.
And I believe it encroaches upon the stone wall.
You think it goes up that far?
I believe it's close.
I-
But you can't tell now at this time of year from just looking, I can't.
I
think.
did a lot of soils work. The vegetation is very close to being 50% hydrophytic. It depends on who's looking at it. I mean, in some places, you don't have it, you don't have enough wetland vegetation. In other areas, say so. And then I went down with the soils and that area up towards that stone wall. And it was close, but no cigar in my
I hate to cut everybody off, but we're gonna have another meeting on this anyway, so we're gonna have to continue and then,
Can I make one last point?
as long as it's a quick one, these people didn't bring their pillow and blanket.
The wetlands consultant went out, it's noted that he went back out again in July to redo those flags. But it doesn't say what day in July he went out. Was there a report that came back with his?
I know that there are some R flags, so usually.
Could I have a motion?
Somebody
Let's
went
make a
back.
motion to continue to September 4th at
8 PM.
8 o'clock.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Joe.
Or at 8 PM?
Mhm.
All right, I gotta, recuse myself for this next one.
Please recuse yourself.
Okay, what plans, are those the ones that you just done?
Kinda got messed up.
33, John.
Yeah.
It's not even on the list.
There you go.
For DP?
Yep, should keep those together.
33 Jones?
Thank you.
This is a new, where's the,
Saint of X?
okay. All right, excuse me. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, August 7th, 2019 at 7:25. It's now 8:20 at the Sutton Town Hall, 4 Oxford Road, Sutton, Mass. Purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Diane Zielinski, Sutton, Mass. Project consists of installation of a tight tank on map 49, parcels 162 on 11 Tucker Lane, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. It was on here, it was continued, so I didn't have to read that, I'm sorry.
Was continued.
This is 11.
It's a new one,
The only thing we were waiting for was a DEP number.
so it wasn't a new one.
I was gonna make this very short.
Excuse me, do we have your resume on file?
Do you have my
Is the
what?
engineer of
Resume?
record?
My resume personally, no, I don't think so. I do get emails from you every vision. Board of Health, so forth.
So, no resume on file?
I'll vouch for you.
All right,
Like Charles Michaud, professional engineer. From Mass. I understand what Brandon had said was, I noticed when you put up the numbers a while ago, that the DEP filing was 8/15, and it hasn't, we haven't seen it yet. I think that's basically what we're waiting for.
Yes, we were waiting on DP number the last time, we're waiting on the DP number this time.
8:15, I don't even know what the time meant between 8:15 and
We had
now.
the first hearing on 8/17, right? On 8/7.
8/7.
8/7.
Yet this says that the filing date is 8/15, so
8/15.
I think that's probably just DEP being slow on the draw, because they're being inundated with the
I'm sure.
applications right now, that's my feeling.
So,
Would you like to continue? Because
we could continue, yes.
Okay. Make a motion to continue 11 Tucker Lane to September 4th at 8:10.
Seconded.
8:10.
8:10. All those in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. You might wanna call them and just try to,
We're gonna do that tomorrow.
We okay out there?
Yeah, I told them they can't do it in the building, go outside. Tucker Lane? Tucker Lane's right off Putnam Hill Road, right at the estuary. Upper Pond?
Yeah, oh.
Yeah.
You know,
No, I had used Tim in the past.
Set?
see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
I did pretty well with no coffee.
Yeah,
till
you
instead.
you had to read too much, I think.
All right,
Mm.
I'm gonna open up, 8:10 and 8:11 PM.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 128, 141, and 142 Armsby Road.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so I think the biggest issue we had with this was the easement across town property. That was the big question we had from last meeting, correct?
Yes, Patrick Burke, project engineer, WDA. I've got a letter from the town administrator saying that they're aware and okay with the filing of the notice of intent and taking action on it.
Okay. And that's, I did get it in my email. That's an actual easement that's deeded to that property, correct?
Yes.
For access, okay.
Would you like me to read the letter? It's a short letter.
Yeah, why don't we read the letter, and that'd be great.
Dated August 19, 2019 by James Smith, Town Manager. Sutton Conservation Commission, this letter serves to acknowledge the town is aware that the Wedgewood Farm application at 128, 141, and 142 Armsby Road also shows construction on the abutting town property. We are in the process of confirming the actual right of the applicant to utilize the access through the cemetery, but in the meantime, we have no objection to the filing or the commission taking action on the filing, as no construction can commence until the right of access is confirmed. Signed, James Smith, Town Manager.
I think every other facet of this was covered, wasn't it, as far as we're concerned, Brandon? Is there anything else on this project that we had questions about?
No,
Is anybody?
I wanted to see my recommendation was to, like I do with all these, is to have the long-term O&M plan as an in perpetuity, condition.
Okay. Anybody from the board have any input on this project? Anybody from the audience? Seeing none, no, I'm just kidding, Glenn. What's your name and address?
Glenn Kowalski, EBT Environmental. I did go back to the, where they're proposing to remove the roadway portion. And as I raised the question last time, I went back there and looked at it. And I know Brian Waterman said that by taking the roadway out and connecting the wetland from the up gradient side of the roadway to the wetland on the down gradient side would have no effect on the brook itself, but the cascade where Mr. Matt Stencil, your DPW, pulled out the culvert, the cascade from the outlet of that culvert down to the wetland is measured by me 3 feet. And so I can't still understand how, if we take the roadway out and connect the wetland on up gradient side of the roadway to the wetland on the down gradient, it's not gonna pull the brook through the wetland area, and because now that'll be a lower point of discharge than the cascade of 3 feet off of where the culvert ended and they pulled the culvert out. So there is either gonna be, if I'm facing you and this is the Armsbury Road and this is the wetland in between and this
I'm
is the
sorry,
Oaks-
can we just,
Oh,
if-
can we
just,
have
yeah,
it on
do you
here?
mind?
Can- Where would it
Maybe the
be?
colored one there, yeah.
Thank you.
Glenn, I know you got it, but
I,
Just
thank
can't
you.
start it
Now
going
that I
and-
have it on the map,
Yeah.
you're totally correct, I'm sorry again. There's a 3-foot drop from this point cascading over rocks that was originally built by the town or some entity built the roadway. And so you drop out of the culvert, I don't know, 8 inches to 10 inches, it goes through this channel, which also backs up in here when the culvert is somewhat blocked, or this wetland is the same elevation of the stream channel now. And then you cascade down these series of 4 or 5 rocks into the brook bottom right here. They're proposing to remove this section of roadway, but this wetland is higher than this wetland. And so, as long as we all understand that, and that we keep the brook in the brook, and not, once we take this out, force it to come down and around and come back into the brook, that's my problem.
So what's,
Yeah, we're not taking that.
But
We're just
tell me
crossing it.
how.
We're just crossing it here with the footbridge.
Yeah, but your last proposal was to take this roadway out.
No, the proposal is right where the culvert used to be, we're just crossing there. We're not gonna.
So,
keep it as permanent.
so there's no alteration to the, I thought this was.
Yeah,
a
I'm
rest-
confused, 'cause that's-
South to north, we turn it 180 degrees because we're looking at.
This is the piece that the town owns. Well,
Yeah, that piece
whatever
of
way you
property.
like to turn it. That's what I heard the last meeting.
Yeah, the water flows through here.
it's funny you say that, Glenn, but I do remember them they said they were gonna take out a section of that roadway.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
section of the old roadway and a
Yes,
couple of big
Pat,
trees.
so
Yeah.
Brian Waterman said it too, so it was talked about, and I brought it up
But
at the last.
it's not on this plan, so,
But, that's okay, but as long as we're, maybe gonna close this hearing and maybe I worry about taking the brook and bringing it through here, because now this is lower than this by 2.5, 3 feet. I know, I realize the wetland from this point actually goes up gradient, but if you remove the entire roadway, Pat,
Yes.
Burke, and you bring it to the elevation of this wetland, you will have water flowing over in down gradient, because I took pictures, I saw it, I didn't bring them in here, I stood in the brook next to the poison sumac and took a picture of the actual stones. So be careful if you're standing here, right here is a nice poison sumac bush facing downstream on the right. I put my wetland flag on it with the surveyors,
I
actually.
hope those trout are gonna send you a Christmas card.
They love me. But that's it, I just don't wanna drain the brook through this if this piece of road is being removed.
Is there a
It's
way to
all for the trouble.
condition that?
Can we
or-
condition it to, okay,
Brandon could, sure.
all right, is that good enough for you?
It is,
Okay.
because you.
Is
people
that
around
okay
it,
with
and I
you?
think it
Yep,
wasn't
absolutely.
clear.
So we're gonna include a condition to maintain healthy trout wildlife in that
No,
section,
no,
right?
to keep the water going into the
You need a
brook.
walkway, it's already a brook.
I think because the
That'll-
wetland's higher, we're gonna drain the wetland,
Right.
right into the brook.
Yeah.
The road's kinda probably what created that, it's gonna,
How would you word it, Brandon?
You know what, I'm gonna ask Mr. Gavin how he would like to see that worded.
Glenn, how would you word that?
Well, Mr. Burke did bring it up, and here's the post grades on both sides that show that they're taking that portion of the road. That's why there's a walkway there. They're restoring wetlands apparently. As long as the elevation in the roadway doesn't go any lower than the wetland on the up gradient side, that will then allow the water to stay in the brook and not flow through that, flow around. That's my.
Is that
so
okay
it's a
with
matter of
WDA?
ensuring
Is
that,
okay.
that Brian Waterman and that
every-
Mr. Faniff is aware of it.
So
and-
everybody's okay with that?
Almost.
Okay.
Good with that? Make a motion, to issue an order of conditions,
Excuse me, before, I just wanted to add,
Close.
the latest review for the planning board through Gabe's Engineering arrived in this order.
Okay.
And another analysis point,
Okay.
the, kind of large parking area to make sure we weren't increasing, so we just broke out an additional water setup.
Okay, great.
And we've got a stormwater report and revised plans.
Is there anybody from the audience on this before we close it? Okay.
Oh, the question I do have on
Yes.
this brook, is that on, 128 or 141 on Speed?
It goes across both, doesn't it?
So is it,
Well,
should
the
be,
two different addresses. The north lot is, which was this, wasn't that just 141 on the north side? And then on the south side, it's 128 and 142.
so 141's the one that needs to be conditioned for the stream, right?
For the correct.
Yes, that would be the north, what we're calling the north.
And also, the lot that the town owns is also gonna have to be referenced, but I don't think you have to do that. I'll just make sure that it gets done on the order.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion to close the public hearing.
I just have one statement to make before we close it. I think that we did a pretty easy approval process on a very large project. I think some of the things we were sold is that it's single-family homes. I know I like the idea of it. I'm actually excited. I just hope that when this is all done, I'm as excited about it as right now as I am when it's done. Because I think we're very lenient. They're within 100 feet of a river. There's a lot of impact on wetlands. There's a lot of trail systems. Just don't let us down.
To
And I
back-
mean that.
to
You
back
tell
my
the
up.
developer and you tell the site work contractors that this is a project I personally will just be keeping an eye on, not to be a pain. It's just, this is a very sensitive area, and I want them to be mindful. I really do. I don't want this to be a project that we have to get upset about.
To back Mike on that, I think this is a wonderful project for the town. That's why we were so lenient on this, but we want it done right.
Yeah, we want it done like this.
Yeah.
One last thing, and as we know that urbanization of headwater trout streams, which is what this is, it's a cold water, it has the insects, it has the water temperature, and that normally roadway runoff is a contributor to the degradation. It's that heated water off your pavement, and that's why I brought up at the last meeting that the detention structures that we're sure, and they assured that the detention structures are far enough away that that heated water during the summer is what the key. Lee McLaughlin, the head of fishery biologist, whose grandfather was McLaughlin Hatchery, once said in Rutland, and this is my last point, that the water was running right into a cold water brook. This is a Rutland project. We just wanna make sure that hot water clearly is not something that contributes. So we'll be looking at the quality change. We already have water quality testing from Alpha Analytical on this brook downstream when we did Tony Rankin's, this chiropractor place. We'll be watching for water quality, any changes also.
So then I have a question.
Yes.
So if this project was to have an impact that we didn't anticipate, what could we put in the order of conditions that would give us the authority to, I'll say it, force them to improve whatever design that was done, so that we don't end up with any damage to this river? 'Cause
We were
like I
gonna
t-
have annual inspections anyway, right?
No, I think this would be, go ahead.
Well, the thing about alteration under the clause alteration, as you know, and as some of the neighbors know, that the alteration of biological change, temperature change, all that technically, if it's this quality now and there's a change, then it's a violation of technically your regs.
That is true.
So if there's a violation, there is a comeback on potential modifications. Most of the only time that you're gonna see that problem, because you are 100 feet away, so the shading isn't an issue. If you're right on top of it, you're gonna heat it up with sunlight. But the other change is gonna be coming in from your water quality, and if there's a change.
Basins, infiltration.
Hmm?
Infiltration basins, which is gonna have warm water.
Right, and the key is to, because we have hydrologic soil group A's here, is in many cases, I'm looking at another one over in Oxford that's in A, and all of it goes in the ground. The basins were designed where, and these might be the same because you have that great soil, that even though there's a large discharge, we mostly infiltrate it because it's not a B or a C hydrologic group, it's an A. So we would just hope that we see on most storm events that it's going in the ground in those infiltration basins. And if there is a change, it's gonna be showing up in water temperature, and then water quality. The insects and the plant life will change because of that temperature, because the plants that are in that brook are keyed in on cooler water, on cold water. It's Fontanalis and it's starwort, whatever, there's a couple species, but once water warms up, those are eliminated. Not just insects and animals, plants get eliminated when the water gets warm, so we'll see it.
Brandon?
Well, this brings up the question of whether or not you feel the need to have any water quality or temperature parameters monitored, either as a base now, during construction, or after construction.
I didn't wanna be quick to close the public hearing, and this is exactly the discussions I wanted to have now, not later. I think we should, this is a great project. Like I said, you had a pretty easy approval, I think, to put some conditions. That's what I wanted to make sure, that when we approve this, that we are just making sure we have the conditions in place,
Yeah.
that if,
I'm all for the water quality and temperature monitoring. Is that okay with you guys?
How often would that be? Would we be doing that, or?
Well, if you're gonna do water quality parameters, temperature's easy to get, right? Dissolved oxygen, perhaps, that's a very important one for trout. Temperature, dissolved oxygen,
We're doing, it's a basic $125 at Alpha. It's just your nutrient levels, your TKN, total kendall nitrogen, and then you have nitrate, nitrite, and T-phos, total phos. And those are standard on any trout, Hopkinton EMCs that we're doing, the one we're doing for a zoo down in Attleboro. And that's a key for just regular trout, because it's cheap. It should be done pre, and it should be done post, and it should be logical that it's done during just a base flow, not during initially we wanna look at a base flow, and then we would look at higher flows during a storm, but I wouldn't wanna burden them for a lot of testing, but it should be done with Brandon's knowledge on something like that you do it pre-work and then post-work, cause then, but it's similar conditions, because you're not gonna look at something during a high rain event if you looked at a high rain event today, then you would look at a high rain event post. If you were looking at low volume now, you would look at low volume later. So if I was to say anything, it would be those kind of parameters. Low and high, and then it would be mostly summertime is the issue that you see the problem. When it's fall, winter, or spring, you're not having a temperature problem that's knocking out trout, but during the summer, that's when you're knocking them out.
Joyce?
We had a temperature study done on Cold Spring Brook prior to Market 32 down at back, and I don't think we've had a post, but we do have a lot of information that we monitored over, what, a year and a half or so?
right, and then they came in and asked for the commission to waive those, and the commission complied with that request.
The key with market, you have 146 going in, even
Yeah.
though we have some good base instructions that we had DOT build, that you had build, that we worked on. Up here, it's more headwater, you're gonna have a
Right.
higher water quality up here than you are below
I
146.
call it the Glenn Kravosky Memorial Detention Basin.
Well,
I call it the Glen Kravosky Brook.
I call it the trout brook, but thank you again, and that's what we're looking at.
All right, we'll take a
Would
motion.
you like us to keep it open, maybe present some
No.
kind of monitoring?
don't be quick to close this public hearing, come on, haven't we learned anything over
Well,
the
can we
last
just
couple
do it as a condition, or do
It's
we
a
wanna
huge
keep it open?
project. And I'm in favor of it 100%.
I trust they're gonna do the condition, I mean.
Well,
I'd like
He
to
was willing to
maybe
continue it, and
yeah,
I think we
continue
should,
the,
because the
meeting.
engineer's willing to continue it.
Continue
Okay,
with
make
that.
a motion to continue 128 and 142 and 141 Armsby Road to September 4th at 8:20 and 8:21.
8:21.
I'll
Yeah.
second it.
I don't think I heard, did you get?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Not yet, that will be done.
All right. Okay. This needs to go to one. I think I just saw lightning.
Yeah, 'cause there was tornado warnings in Connecticut, and they were coming up this way.
Oh, excellent. All
Well, I
right.
thought New Hampshire got, tornado warning.
Mm.
So just a good plan.
Yep, I got you. 9-4, and that was 8-20.
8:20 and 8:21.
Bill, you did the motion, who did the second?
I did.
Thanks, Mike.
That's Michael. All right. Okay.
High school was my girls' kid.
Whenever you're ready, Wanda, we got 480 Boston Road.
480 Glenn.
No, 141?
And
141, I was,
that was part of,
no, it was 128 and 142.
well, yeah, 128, 142,
142 and then 141.
and then 141, we already did them. Tyler's fish just passed away. We have mass hysteria at home.
Don't tell Glenn.
But he was a sicklet, that's different.
It's a good way to learn about that.
Make a motion to waive the reading of 480 Boston Road.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I just need the paperwork on it, so.
I don't know what you just did.
Waive the reading of 480 Boston Road.
Okay. Okay, okay, so you waived it to, who did the motion?
I made the motion, it was seconded by Mike.
Mike.
Thank you.
1 second, I just need my paperwork on it.
Okay. I gave it to you already, did I?
I think so. No, this is all arms big.
I don't know where it is. It's gotta be here somewhere. Everything is shuffled around so much.
I have plans. What's the date on this?
What's the date on your
This is gonna be an informational meeting.
Information
so-
meeting, all right.
Because we will
I
be
just-
asking for
let me get a s-
continuance right after this. It's
Let me get a
clear that-
sticky pad, I can write this on, no problem.
So,
Okay, go ahead, Glenn.
Oh, here it is, I'm sorry.
Excellent.
we,
File, plans.
this would be, if the board chooses to see something that's later, the latest but not completed. It is a draft, it is a change in the driveway position. Thank you, Glenn Kowalski from EPT Environmental. Because of the major concerns of the neighbor, and yes, we all looked at 1004 and what Phil is under maintenance, and Phil under maintenance with 1004 and reviewing it with your consultant, and there is a word in there, no significant fill. And so we looked at and calculated the amount of fill on the property that we had proposed, and it did come to 50 cubic yards. We can say that significant is subjective in that under 401 water quality, for a dredging permit, it takes 100 cubic yards to trigger a dredging permit. So maybe however we wanna weigh out the word significant, and however we weigh out 50 cubic yards, we did wanna stabilize the roadway, the previous existing roadway, but we also want to do the best we can, but we might not be able to do it, avoid an appeal. So we recognized that. So we moved the driveway to a new location, and we're gonna abandon the original proposal. We're still waiting for the engineers to give us a cross-section of a typical replication area. We do propose to move.
This is what they're proposing.
Move the driveway to the southern end of the property. There's a paddock right here. We're proposing, and Mr. Fanoff and Ms. Smith have been out there in the field and looking at wetland lines and.
Glenn, could you shift that so Nicole can see it a little
You
bit?
want another one?
Yes, please.
I didn't wanna leave the neighbors out, because obviously they're.
Yeah, well,
there's.
if we get one.
Yeah, they can have a call, they can always call up and we'll send them another plan. It's our pleasure to do that.
See, this is where.
So what we're proposing to do is go in, run the route, this is the property line. They did try to the engineers try to fit the driveway right up against the property line in your town. There is no setback off property line for driveway. Brandon, I did email that over to you, I don't know if you got it. So we,
Don't get too far, that's
we didn't feel that was logical to suck a driveway right up against a property line. I'm sorry.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely. Mike
So
wants to
why
ask
did
you a
we
couple
abandon the idea you were here with the last time? I know it was crossing through the wetland on an existing gravel road, which was a lot.
Because the subjective word significant fill.
If I may, thank you,
That's
Glenn.
it.
Well, I'm just wondering, before we go too far on this big, long driveway that may have more of an impact than an existing gravel.
No.
I wanted to ask about it, I mean, cause
Yeah,
now I
I
see this
did-
huge, long winding driveway.
It wasn't gravel is what the problem was, right?
No.
It wasn't gravel.
It was
They'd have to-
topsoil.
They'd have to muck it out and then bring in gravel.
So the road that's there was on top of the loam?
Maybe there was a road there, but there's muck there now.
They would have to kind of fill in the wetland, so this is,
Oh, but
this is
let
avoiding
me
the
ask, what's
wetland.
less of an impact in this case, where you're going through a field?
It is like you said, the field, we cross over and then we skirt the edge of the field so that the field can still be mowed. We nip into 256 square feet of wetland, right at that point of 25A. It does account for a 2-foot side shoulder and 5 feet off the property line, which I asked the engineer to show instead of a 10-foot wide driveway sucked up against the property line, where, because this is a 2-foot contour map, which is a standard map, but if we had micro topo, which I call 1-foot contours, you might have seen more clearly that there's the fence, there's a slope, and then there's the field. And so to suck it all the way up against that slope on our property, we would have to have either retaining wall on the right, and still we're only looking at a 10-foot wide driveway. You would be riding on the edge of a retaining wall. Could it be done? 10 feet is not the common driveway for anything. It's normally 12. It's really tight to run 10. And so we moved it over to 5 feet to give the neighbor the 5 feet, to keep off the slope that's coming off the fence line, and replicate the wetland. We looked through your bylaw, and I might have missed it, but we looked and looked. We didn't see anything more than the 1-to-1. Maybe there's somewhere else in the.
1-to-1 is, that's
Okay,
fine.
well, we're a little over the 1-to-1. It's easy replication as far as, we come up a slope here, and we can take you in the field and show that the final elevation of the cross-section of the replication area, and we will do this, that we're gonna be hitting hydric soils within the final grade. We have hydric soils directly downgraded, and this is the tip of it. So the engineer designed it that way to run in here, and the barn itself is totally out of the buffer zone. There is some grading. We're gonna take I hear from the other last project that if there was any question about the barn and runoff, I'm not trying to spend the client's money any more of it, but we'll do what it takes to satisfy any stormwater, even though under state stormwater, we're not required to, but if there's something like that coming along, we're here for information, to present it to you, knowing that we're gonna be coming back with a second sheet with replication on it. The notice of intent will be revised to reflect the square footage of lost and replicate, so there's a little bit of work on the NOI, not much.
May I ask, is the barn going in the same place as it was proposed a couple weeks ago, roughly?
Can I ask Ms. Goodwin, I think she moved it just a hit.
Just roughly back so that it was not impacting the boundary, the 100-foot buffer.
And you
We wanted
pref-
to move it
we-
so that there was no question of any impacting of that.
Of your jurisdiction, we have the old one, I believe we just moved it, and I have a scale, we just moved it.
The only question
So
I.
it's much more out of the wetland.
Just for
No,
the
I understand, but-
applicant, you prefer this second, or do you prefer the first?
I think this is fine, we don't want any confrontation, we wanna have,
Probably
you know,
it's-
we
I think
try
here's
to
the edge of
minimize
wetlands.
the
Yeah.
use an
100-foot buffers right here.
Goes through the middle of
We
the-
recognize that there was, there was confrontation that we didn't want to, have. So we went to, the original opening on the property where there's already a gate, and we're coming along the back fence line so that we can still hay the fields.
So, yeah,
It's
it
gotta
looks
be-
better.
There's the old barn. And we realized that the people that wrote, well, we don't know the people that wrote the letter, we only know the people that signed the letter. So the people that gave the letter, the abutters, we're, again, I think, where was I going? We were trying to avoid that, the issue of when the land was cut up. You know, the commission can look back in time and looked at, was there an issue with cutting the land up and not recognizing where all the wetlands were at that time? And I know from my work, in 90% of the time, if an engineer or client calls me in, we would like to know where that wetland is before we cut things up. That being said, it was cut up by Mark LaPrade. It was a field. Nobody thought the wetland went that far up. I performed 115 soil borings on the Mark LaPrade plan, which is part of your exhibit, to prove where the wetland line was. It turns out we came right up to near the edge, 10 feet off the edge. So we are not gonna file this thing under a 1053, which is the limited access provision, which was brought up in the letter. We are gonna file it under the 1055 4B, which is may I fill something up to 5,000, we're at 254, 58, whatever.
Well, you're under 5,000, so it's not.
259, I'm sorry, we're well under the we're well under the 5,000, so we are gonna utilize the clause that doesn't say, we never had an access back there, which is the limited access provision. We're gonna ask the commission to utilize the 1055 clause, which says, may I fill some smaller point, because we don't want that to.
Which is completely at your discretion.
It is at your discretion, yeah.
Is this property used for agriculture, so it's?
Yes.
It is.
Active in, chapter 61A.
Okay, and it's filed a tax
leased-
return, right?
It's leased to a farmer who farms it with 4-H'ers
Right.
for us.
Right, and I'm presume the product is sold from this property.
Product is sold,
And
so.
there's no contention about that.
No.
So,
No, I don't, my
Well,
point for
we
bringing
don't
it.
ask, we didn't ask the neighbors, but there's no contention on our end.
My point for bringing it up to the applicant is I think this is very nice that they took the second plan right away. I wanna state on record as they did last time, I was fine with the first plan. I said the day we stop allowing people to use the old car paths that were in this town, what Sutton's been based off, is the day that Sutton's changed completely forever.
Especially on a working field.
And on a working farm, so that's why I asked you, because I will push for the first one if you prefer
I
that.
appreciate that, I just don't
Appreciate
feel that
that.
we want any confrontation of anybody that we've ever had land against, and.
Sure.
And that was really the.
I also don't wanna see you have the extra expense of putting a very long.
Well, it's not gonna be much of a driveway.
I can read Brandon, he's gonna disagree with you.
Well,
It stays out of the wetland.
not completely.
Oh, okay.
It was a crossing a few feet off the road.
I
get
just think you got this
You've been
pristine,
out there.
beautiful
I was
farm
out
there that you're
there.
gonna put in a driveway
Did you
3
walk in
times
it?
as
It's
long.
very wet.
There should always be exceptions to the
May I-
rule. Go ahead, of course.
Thank you.
I told you it was gonna happen.
Where we left it off last time is that I was gonna go do my homework,
Yeah.
alright? I understand what Bill's saying, but I have to make sure that it can be approved. The question is, can it be approved under the agricultural exemption heading? Which means that they wouldn't have to do any wetland replication work. And after some, conferring with DEP and a colleague of mine, in what I felt, I was feeling from the beginning, they confirmed what I was thinking, is that once you put in new material through the wetland, it no longer falls under the exemption category.
can I thank you.
And we were talking about significant fill.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to the regulation which talks about that, and it reads, and this is under the heading of normal maintenance, which in all cases does not include placing substantial amounts of fill in bordering land subject to flooding or filling or dredging a salt marsh. It doesn't mention BVW.
But if I could after you're done. Robert's Rules of Order, so.
Go ahead.
Which doesn't include, in other words, the substantial fill that they're talking about, you cannot put any substantial fill, but let's read every word, no substantial fill. But not
Re-graveling
in
of an
salt
existing.
marsh or BLS. It refers, then the other resource areas, I guess you can do no substantial fill.
That's not the way I read it.
And it's
I
61A
I
and
read every word 4 times, it's telling you cannot do any
not
kind of
exempt
fill.
through the bylaw, 61A, so.
Any fill in
Whatever
those-
one they wanna do, they've got my support.
Whoa.
They want this one, so
Well,
let's,
let me present this.
yeah.
The commission could still approve the original crossing, but with a replication area. Because it's under 5,000 square feet, the commission has the discretion to approve just about any kind of fill under 5,000 square feet. It just wouldn't, it would not fall under the exemption category, and under the exemption, they wouldn't have to do the replication work.
Just,
Let's go with the second plan, because
Well, I
that's
think
what
it should
they
be-
want.
Yeah, it should be
no, I
up-
think it should be
up-
discussed, they're trying to appease us.
It should be up to them.
And
what
I have
kind of
another
plan they're looking
question.
forward with.
What's it like where that driveway comes out opposed to just, cause there's an intersection there, you're on a bend of a road.
The other person's driveway, the driveway for the big farm, the original Emery house, we're next to it. Clear me up, but we're maybe 40 or 50 feet further up the road, going south. So here's the property boundary right here, that's that stone wall. Their driveway is right next to us. Am I correct on that? Town Farm Road. Instead on this plan, Christine, it says Town Farm Road directly to the left of us. Is that not?
That's 8 lots, Boston and Town Farm.
Right, but directly to the left of your proposed driveway is the other people's driveway, is that not correct?
It's to the, yes,
Yes.
if you're looking at it.
There's an
yeah.
error on this plan, I'll have the engineer fix it, directly to the left of this stone wall, because I'm looking, when I was flagging this, I was up against that boundary, and right on the other side was a small piece of lawn and then their driveway. So we'll be adjacent to the driveway that goes to the bigger house over there, the old family house.
So just my experience, these are the most expensive driveways to put in town, because this soil is not good.
Sorry?
My experiences are, the soils that you're gonna encounter to put this driveway in is gonna be the worst conditions you could expect to have. I've usually seen you're gonna have to do a couple feet of trap walk, then gravel,
We
and I'm
did-
worried about the length of this.
Marty
And-
Linda did the original farm work for us, where we put these same pathways in, cause this is not gonna be paved.
Yeah.
It's
It's gonna be a glorified cart path, right?
It's-
Basic?
To the barn.
Basically, and.
But there's no
and
animal.
At this time,
Well,
there's
at
no
this time.
animals. At some point, the reason I don't want pavement in case we are in a position to have to bring some animals. Depends on family conditions and things that.
So before
are
we talk about,
appropriate.
would you rather it be a shorter, less expensive driveway?
I would
Or do
always
you like
rather
where it
shorter
is?
and less expensive and out on a, a straight shot.
So then help me understand impact, cause to me, I know we're going through the wetland, but when you see it 3 times the length,
It's two, I just did it up.
Twice the length.
Well, it's length through the buffer zone / AWRA, right, there would still be,
Rep-
almost, on this eyeball, it looks like an almost equal amount of work, traveling through the buffer zone as well. The crossing would be less this way than the other way, but it would still be under 5,000 square feet. So, there's an impact avoidance and minimization requirement, but it doesn't always mean that the shorter way is necessarily the least impactful way. So the commission does have some, leniency.
This is gonna continue, correct?
Yes,
We're
you
gonna
have the
bring in,
plan.
we're here
Okay.
just to present what we're going to
You-
do, and we were
just-
looking to wrap up this plan in the next couple of days, make sure Brandon had it well before 7 days, and then take it where it goes from the next
The
meeting.
roadway's gonna be going through a field that looks just like this. See this tree
That's what
right,
I'm
these trees
getting at.
right here?
It's
This
gonna
all
be
looks like a
along the
field,
fence.
so I can
The
do a
barn
driveway
is
half
gonna
as
be
long.
right here.
And it
Yes.
goes along this
It's-
fence, and there's a slight drop off this to that where
There's
we'll
still
be.
water on,
It's a lesson thing.
Alright,
It's-
does anybody from the
But
audience
it's
have
not.
any comments or questions?
I just would like to say that I'm happy that they're looking at the less impact, and that was my point when I read the letter.
Okay.
I would like to also state on the fact that I don't like when we come to a meeting here and everyone has their opinion that says as soon as we vote on something, if they don't like our vote, they're gonna appeal it.
Right.
And that's my biggest problem with this, is we sit up in here as a volunteer board and make a decision, and someone comes up and says, starts a letter with, or puts in the letter, we don't care what your vote is, if we don't like it, we're gonna appeal it. And I have a real problem with that, and I think your plan from day one was an excellent plan, and I'm 100% supportive of it. I am supporting the second one too, so you've got it either way.
Thank you, sir.
That's all I wanna say. Took it as a threat 2 weeks ago when the letter was read.
And to back him on that, you have to be a direct abutter to appeal our decision. So,
And to finalize, when I was talking with DP, the overarching theme they told me about the agricultural exemptions was that when you're done with that particular land use and it goes, back to nature, that it goes back to nature and it doesn't remain as something else, like a gravel driveway. Gravel driveway isn't gonna revert back into the wetland when it's done, when they're done with the use.
take a couple thousand years, but I'll take a motion.
Make a motion to continue with their permission to September 4th at 8:30, is that right, Wanda?
Thank you, Conservation Commission.
Have a
Take a
good
second
night.
on that?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thank you very much, Conservation.
September 4th, 8:30?
8:30.
8:30.
Thank you very much. I
8:30.
just felt it was worth the discussion. I don't want
Absolutely.
repetition.
Thank you.
I tried to do everything right when we did the other
What
part.
happens is we find out a lot of times that people don't actually have a problem with the wetlands or the conservation issues, they don't wanna see something built in a property that's never been there. Which has
Yeah.
happened a couple times tonight already, so we just try to get to the root of the real evil and figure it out for everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm gonna need a motion to continue.
People pleaser.
Well,
Mr. Providence Turnpike.
until September 4, 2019 at 7:10 p.m.
I need to recuse myself from that project.
Okay. Mike is gonna have to recuse from this one. Did you second it?
Second.
I'm not voting on this.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You both, you voted on item.
I recused
This is you,
myself.
Mike recused himself on that.
Do I vote?
Yeah, that would be the vote. 5-0.
So who did the second then?
Zach made the motion, I seconded it,
Okay.
and Nicole voted on it, cause Mike has to recuse.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right, we did the C of C for 50 to 58, Wacky, that's done.
Oh, we did that?
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, this was issued, but
Oh,
we
yeah,
didn't
we
sell it.
signed it,
We
yeah.
did, we signed that.
I lost page 2. Uh-oh.
The more applications that come in, the more chance we can catch it.
I agree, I don't like when someone sits in here and I think a lot of times people have a problem because they just don't wanna see a form of construction, and I just wish they would say that.
Which one is this?
You're never gonna hear it.
Twin
But you know it.
conservation plan, 8 lots road, this is this last one. This is one.
What is gonna happen with the, I think with the plan, with the Board of Health, easing setbacks,
Have a lot more.
you're gonna see a lot more.
What did we table till the end? We tabled,
Closer.
130.
Grant Woodward never came in?
No.
I don't know what to do about this, cause we let him off,
Well, he's not really in violation anymore
yeah.
for us.
Okay, so Wanda, can we take him off the agenda? Yep,
Okay.
please. Cause we got rid of that enforcement order, but he's gonna have to be creative with his plan. That was the one we just did, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Wanda, these are.
All right, what else?
He's gonna have to come in because he's filing for that accessory.
Right.
Wanda, I think a lot of these are gonna be new plans when they come back. I don't know if you wanna.
There was nothing else tabled to the end other than the, policy bylaw or bylaw fee review?
That's all that's left, right?
Okay, I do have one question about this Gianni Romano. Should we change the other one that we sent as just an enforcement order to a cease and desist since we've had 2 from him?
Yeah, we already voted on it. We could reopen it and send a cease and desist on on the one that
Because, I mean,
Brandon wants.
we
but-
got 2 in a row today from him doing work that we haven't approved.
Well, it's gonna be ceased after 7 business days, so it is.
Hold on, just so Zach understands.
Yeah.
So Zach, on one of them he did, and on one of them he got an issue, he got issued an order of conditions. He had the right to start the project with a pre-construction meeting after his erosion control was installed, a letter from an engineer.
Okay.
So he did not comply with the start of project. Brandon was out there and also noticed no erosion control. So on one project, he's in violation of starting his project correctly and installing his erosion control. And then on the second project that we issued the cease and desist,
Right.
he's doing work without a permit, is the easiest way to say it, Brandon, that I,
Yeah, I think you do up.
we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So I think, and I agree, it's good to really understand, but we're probably done the right
I
thing
think
on
we're
what we
covered,
did,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
we.
And
put the
maybe if
wheels
they
in
were
motion, that's gonna
reversed-
get it corrected, and that's all
What?
we want.
If they were reversed in order,
Yeah.
maybe it would.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
right,
agree.
yeah.
Well, my thoughts are he's basically ignoring what we're telling him to do and keeps going
He's-
around.
Yeah, exactly. He's gotta be at the next meeting, so we'll see how it
Okay.
goes. We'll see how it goes. All right, policy, bylaw fee review, does anybody have anything, anybody wanna add anything? I think it's important that we do this twice a year, before fall town meeting and before spring town meeting.
Okay, I had brought up, and I emailed you, this is what we had, done to try to replace 12.6 to make it a little simplified. So we had tabled it before, and, so this is, if you would like to put this on a fall town meeting, we
Yeah, it
have to
needs to go.
tomorrow to
This
do
is
it.
your area, Mike, we had spoken about the delineation and stuff, the pricing.
That you have to have a public meeting to open it up to revise it.
We discussed those, one thing we did all agree
Yeah,
on,
we all agree on
we
this.
all agreed on.
That's
this.
when we
Yeah.
hammered home, right?
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
goes on the fall meeting?
No,
No.
no, that was
That's already-
approved,
That was approved spring meeting.
and then it had to be posted, and it didn't go in effect till March 21st.
So I think the biggest thing we want clarity to is what we can use the money for. So we started
That's-
collecting the third, not started, it's always been going on.
Yeah.
But we restarting.
Right.
Because it, somewhere or another got slipped through the cracks. So Joyce, just give us the clarity, you had a list of things that, and it pretty summarized the way, when I read the state regulations, she is doing it out of the,
This was what we proposed last spring, and then you didn't quite understand it all, and we put it on hold. But Jen and I worked through this, and Jen writes most of the bylaws, and it replaces 12.6, 12-6 in the current bylaw, which has A, B, C, D, and all that. All of that information is in here. A couple of things would be in the regulations instead, and I think they already are. So it was kind of like a duplicate of that information. So the fees are in the rules and regulations. This would replace the language that allows us to collect those and explains what they're used for. You can buy your iPad under the municipal
Jim Smith
bylaw.
told me he's gonna buy us iPads, I don't know if it's gonna.
Well, whoever wants them, I guess, or whatever, but the fees from the municipal and the wetlands protection bylaw are very similar. You can use it for anything that to administer and enforce the Wetlands Protection Act. So I think Bob's issue before was in the other one, it says something about consultants. I think this clears it up and it makes it align with what the state fees are.
this might clear some things up. This is the one thing I understand now. We get compared to other towns, why is Sutton more expensive? We're trying to be mindful for the cost of the whole process, right? That's kind of what has got us all guarded. I know, like I said, when I voted no for more costs, is because I didn't understand the consultant fee, the other fee, the whole picture. So since then, we've had discussions. I think that the reason that our filing fee in Sutton might be more on the expensive side if we compare to other towns is, one, our bylaw is more restrictive. There's more to review. Our process has some cost with the, and I don't like to say branding, because it's a process, it's not a person. It's not. It's a process that we've created. We had a discussion when I was new to the board about the fees. We made some raises, which we all thought were fair and reasonable. So if we were to look at cost, it's how the process is happening.
Right.
And it's in the consultant. But we've all decided that we don't wanna do site visits. Well, then that's an area that but it's, walking wetland lines, we all agree we're not specialists in it, we need a consultant.
I'm just gonna back you on this for 1 second. All these boards in this town that have consultants are very, very lucky, because if you go into a board without a consultant, you get 5 people that thinks that they're an expert, and it turns a board into a panel. So I'd much rather have a board with a consultant that knows what he's doing and goes on site visits and does half the paperwork.
Agreed 100%. We're just trying to understand cost and fees.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get to my comparison to the other towns of why this third fee is necessary for us, where some towns don't have a consultant fee, and they're using that second way to charge money, to create money to pay for the cost of running conservation. So, I feel that third fee is necessary so that we don't incur costs to the town, and I didn't before, because I didn't understand it all. So, and I have phone calls, people call and say, why is it so expensive, and they try to nitpick and they ask a million questions. So I've taken the time to truly understand, but that's the process here in town. So we'd either have to change the process, or we're on the right track, we're doing it right, those are the costs. We have to stop feeling guilty about it. That's what it takes to run our conservation board with the bylaws we have in place. That third fee is so that the town doesn't incur costs, because a lot of towns don't collect a consultant fee, and they need to cover all those costs, so they actually charge more than what our fees are. We're just saying that there's some things that, under the state guidelines, we wouldn't be able to charge to file for, but this new regulation that the state mandated, that we could create this fee
Under the home rule.
under the home rule, allows the town to collect the money to help offset an iPad or different costs that will happen throughout the year to run the conservation board.
Can I just give a little history?
Of course.
So
But
they-
right, I mean, so that we all agree, because that's the one thing we all couldn't do, is all understand the three, how it worked, why Sutton was maybe a little more expensive than some other towns, maybe it's less expensive, I didn't go out and compare.
Well, I did a comparison, and that was before Bill was here, and I think that he was maybe the only one here. But I compared all other towns, and this is how it came about. Because in 2015, when we did the new bylaw, we were recommended to take the fees out of the bylaw so we wouldn't have to go to town meeting, and put them into the rules and regulations, so it would just take a public meeting to change them, which is what we did last spring. And, so, at the time I first came on conservation 13 years ago, there was $70,000 in that account. So, when the new bylaw went into effect, no one held the meeting to change those fees into the rules and regulations. So Wanda evidently had suggested that nobody was collecting the fees anymore, and it got ignored by the person who was the chair at the time, and no fees were collected. So that account went from all of that thousands of dollars down to nothing. Now, it was used for lawyers' fees when we did the interface thing with Manjog and so forth. So that pool of money, and that's why those municipal bylaw filing fees can go into this pool, because then it can be used later on for lawyers' fees and things like that. So if you don't have it, then we'd all have to go out and do site visits. The town would have to pick up the expense of any legal fees and so forth, which we can pay out of that. So I don't know if you wanna go ahead and try to put this on the agenda for the fall town meeting, or you wanna put it on hold again, but.
Can I just,
Yep.
you should add in legal fees. I know you have, but shall not be limited to, but you should state that that is something that you want covered.
Legal fees, spell it out.
Yeah, it's not spelled out. I mean, administrative costs doesn't.
Okay,
I
administrative
know, I
costs.
know you have, but shall not be limited to, but just in my
I think we
experience.
should fix this, get it right.
I've
It's-
looked this over and I agree with, I wish this should go on the fall town meeting.
So
and
the
get approved.
thing that we should be mindful as a board, so the big cost of the people that file, when I started to look at individual cases, is the plans they have to spend with their engineer, that they have to create to file with us.
Right.
That's where the real money is.
That's gonna get me to my next point.
So.
Okay, let's
do this
what do
first.
you wanna add?
So, can I just explain why legal fees, it's just so nobody comes back and says,
Yep.
what, you know, does that really fall under? And it goes in this last paragraph,
Yep.
Joyce, and then I just have a few other grammatical or word changes that I would suggest, but nothing major.
I agree. No, I,
So where do you
Nicole,
wanna
I
put
would
that
rely on
in?
your expertise.
So just,
Right.
you
To
know,
fix wording,
after,
that's not
I know
my thing.
nothing.
you
Yeah.
know, after
I
administrative
agree
costs
with Nicole.
and staff
Yeah, 'cause
salaries,
she'll-
add
yeah.
legal fees,
Yeah,
so add it
legal
as the
fees.
second
Okay.
thing.
I do have a question.
And then go into the
Yeah.
other stuff.
So tonight, I'll use
Couple of meetings.
What's that?
some things I
Meetings,
observed
two
tonight at the
meetings
meeting
in advance.
that we're trying to save
Which
money.
ones?
We had an
Sorry.
Sorry, Mike.
I'll let,
Sorry.
one of the applicants tonight had a large area with a big clearing. And I think in the past, we were very adamant that every tree had to be located. I've seen the plans. So, to me, I like that evolution. I like that you suggested that he goes out and counts. I've said it before, we'll learn the engineers. Brandon does a site walk. If he said there was 8 trees and Brandon goes and sees that he cleared a forest, then we start to realize who's truthful. But I like that idea today, that we're gonna make it a little easier of a process and accomplish the same thing.
Right.
So I think we just, and I don't know the exact, cause we don't wanna be too lenient and then the plans and it starts to backfire on us, so there's always the happy medium. But the real cost that people file in this town, it's the cost for them to prepare and to do plans. And if we could look at it as a team of how we could just, if there's a way to simplify that, to keep and accomplish the same things, to keep the cost, that's where the real savings to an applicant could
Well, I
happen.
think with some of that is, Mike, is some of these applicants, if their engineers are not listening to what we told them the first time, or they're not giving the plans to Brandon or us 7+ days in advance.
Not
So-
to cut you off, but can
We're
we?
off topic.
We're off topic, can we just,
Okay.
why don't we close this section out, cause this is gonna be the bylaw fee review
Joyce,
table, right? Or, yeah.
I just have a few,
I also have a question.
just
Yes, sir. What's your question?
Oh, I
up
think
here,
Nicole was
I
going to
wanna
say.
change it to fees listed below,
Okay.
and then just.
No,
my question
not
is,
fees
should this be
listed
like a
below, fees
third
listed in the
bullet?
regulations.
It
Yeah, okay,
looks
no,
like it should
that's
be,
right.
but it's not. Joyce,
Mhm.
Zach, under fees, there's A, B, is this supposed to be C?
Because it just, it says greater than the 599, so I just wanted.
I think it is, yeah.
But there's no price next to it.
No.
Oh, it just
no,
requires-
because
okay.
it requires, it doesn't have to be, no, it's not C.
Okay.
It's delineation of up to,
statement, not a bullet.
yeah, it's a statement. So
Okay, I just wanted to
delineation
check.
greater than that requires an ANRAD, so
Okay.
there's no fee for.
Okay.
And there's no fees collected for ANRADs, that's another reason, so
Okay.
for the RDAs, for the ANRADs and things there are no fees collected for, that's why we collect the fees for the,
Okay.
for the
Okay,
bylaw.
so did you,
Regulations,
did we get
some of these
the
things
corrections
that
that?
you collect, so
It's
just-
fine,
Right, it's
I just,
fine.
I don't like the
Cost of
wording,
the
but
Okay.
it's.
This
Okay,
fee
before
always
we-
go
it was
through
just-
the-
All right.
Yes,
That's, I think, the most
that's-
important.
Why don't we take a motion to get this onto the fall town meeting then?
Okay.
We all
The
discussion,
corrected-
make a motion to,
Unless there's anybody from the audience
Did
that wants to
Nicole,
chime
and we get the corrections and
I
you thought?
give
Yeah, Nicole's all in.
what is this, what's the title of this? Just a
The,
To,
replace section 12.6.
replace section 12.6 with the,
proposed.
Section
Proposed.
12.6 now is how many pages?
3.
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
two and a little bit.
So
That's-
I make a
that's-
motion to replace the current section 12.6 that's 2+ pages with this, the
One.
proposed 1 page.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
So I will have this added in tomorrow
Okay,
and then.
then,
Okay.
who did the second?
Mike seconded.
Good job, Joyce.
Yeah, Joyce,
Very
will
good
you go
question.
into Jen with that tomorrow?
Yeah.
Last time we did a bylaw change, it had to go through the Attorney General's office.
It still does.
It still does. At
That's
what
why it's
point-
being tomorrow.
I forget where in the process, is it after town meeting or before?
After.
Oh, before.
It'll be before,
Right.
because.
Well, we,
Because-
yeah, but we still have a couple months before the actual
This,
meeting.
what, the process,
Oh, yeah.
the process is,
Thought it was
this
after
has
the
to go to the
approval at
town
town
clerk,
Is it?
to go on the warrant.
Right.
And then it goes to the town council, we have to go before the selectmen and the finance committee.
All right.
Right, and then vote, and then.
All right.
You know the AG's not on our schedule.
Okay. Let's get to the next thing. So,
What is the next thing?
let's do policy review. My personal opinion is, we're constantly saying, as per prior policy, we are staying 25 feet away, or as per the last, these policies aren't written anywhere. And it's frustrating to me that somebody's gonna apply for a permit and then have to come back because their project was 21 feet on a deck, and then nowhere they could have read that it was supposed to be 25 feet.
That on a deck, okay, on a dock?
That was on the deck.
Would you like
Yeah.
a policy regarding 25 foot?
I would like every policy that we have written down somewhere.
Can be done.
So then there's no questions, what you're saying, Andy?
I just think black and white is better than somebody coming in with an RDA application and getting turned away because they couldn't read that anywhere. That's not fair. That's getting set up.
But I don't wanna make a hard, fast rule on existing conditions of 25 feet, because if we're gonna talk about that deck,
Yeah.
I personally think that we should have allowed the deck within the 25 feet. And a pre-existing camp on a narrow lot with a lawn to the edge of the water, I think it was wrong what we did.
I'm with you
Me
too.
personally.
I think all those rules are meant to be
So
twisted
even
and
if it's a
manipulated,
policy of
but-
25 feet, I would like to think that there'd always be an exception
I just
to the
hate
rule.
hearing, in the past, this is what we've done, so we have to do it in the future, and I think the board needs to stay progressive.
Well, I think we need to stay consistent too, and.
So one thing that we
not
have that a
playing
lot of
favorites.
towns don't is we have a bylaw. So a lot of the towns have policies with no bylaws, some have both. Do we wanna have both, or do we wanna just stick to what we have?
Be
We have,
flexible.
Well,
we could say that anything within 25 feet is where we're rarely paying attention. That's how I look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where it's, because in the bylaw, it states what the jurisdictional area is, and it states that, the commission has the right to take into consideration all of the short and long-term impacts, and basically make a decision. But what I found is over the years, is once someone got within 25 feet, the commission really started to perk up. We don't like that. So I brought it up, like, you should make a policy, whether if it's written or not, that once you get within 25 feet, because you've been consistent about it, like, that's just too close.
My point is, I don't like the idea of having a policy that's here, that nobody can see, that when they come in
Right.
and they're 3/4 of the way and they've paid an engineer to do all these plans for them, and then we say, oh, by the way, you're 4 feet too close to the lake, come back again. I don't think that that's right.
Well-
I do think we should I think we should draft whatever the policies are that we all have them all written down, and then have them posted on our.
But like Mike was saying, Mike's argument is that if we do post our policies, we can't bend them.
Right, then you have
The
to.
policy is written in a way that gives the commission discretion.
Right.
Then that's fine, right?
And if we can write,
Can't we just
I think
write
we have
that
a
What
great
I've
bylaw,
said
and I think this is
all along
not-
about this 25-foot policy is that it does not apply in every instance. Sometimes you have to go into the wetland for whatever reasons. Let's say there's a dump in there.
Mhm.
It's okay to go in there. It's not like it's so inflexible that you can't go in there, or it's already lawn up to the edge of the water.
I'm not
as it
talking
is.
about those types of instances.
Right, but
I'm
once you
talking-
set a
We could just-
policy, people might not even think to ask when they should,
We can
because it's
just
less
say
of
at
an
the
impact.
end, at the discretion of the commission.
Right.
Yeah, I think as long, if we
Well,
put
that's,
it.
I mean, anything within.
I just think we got plenty of rules and regulations in place,
Okay.
and so, let's say it this way, let's have clarity that there's no policies in place, so that us as a newer board with a lot of newer members, not all of us, we know going forward that there isn't
Really?
policies, that we,
So you wanna start out with no policies?
I would,
Okay.
I absolutely would
That's
like to,
fine.
and it's nice to just talk about it so that we don't feel there is.
Case basis.
But we-
On a case-by-case basis.
Based
Right,
on
but
the
I
That's
want
the way
that-
it's always
Based on
been,
the
though, case-by-case basis.
And that's what I don't
with the
wanna lose
idea
track
that
of.
once
I
you
wanna
get
be fair to
25 feet to a wetland.
I just hate when somebody comes in and say, oh, remember the one we did 3 meetings ago? That one, we said no, so we gotta say no to this guy. I don't
So there's
think
two
that's
things I
right.
don't like. I don't like when somebody says you're setting precedents by a decision because I don't believe, then that means
Right.
you'd have to say yes or no to
Right.
everything in a certain way. So I don't ever believe that any case sets precedents. I like to look at it as it's, and policies start to set precedents on every case.
Right.
And that's why I would be opposed to policies with a great bio, because we have, if we had nothing in place, this would be a whole different conversation for me personally. So I have no more to say, because it would be just rambling on, but that's
Right.
how I feel.
When it comes to a policy or not, how hard and fast are we on these plans from the engineers? Cause that's what I started saying before.
Oh,
about
I
the
know,
road.
yeah.
But the problem is that, cause that's where it attributes to cost, they're not coming in prepared.
I agree with you.
And then we're the
90%
bad
of the time,
guys, not
90%
the
of the time,
engineers.
it's
I
the
mean,
engineer, right.
if
Right,
we
but
have a
some-
rule that it has to be before 7 days, then they should
So
not be on the
Thing is
agenda if
that
we
there
don't
has
have
to be
it.
someone policing it.
Right.
So I
Right.
it has to be done, because I basically said to Mr. Maduris tonight, like, you don't have it, then make a
I
motion to
think
continue.
once we get, the iPads, we'll be able to see more stuff that's incoming through the email.
Let's work on that. I agree with every.
And we'll be able to say, sorry, you're gonna have to continue, you weren't in time.
Well,
Because
once
it's
we do-
wasting everybody's time and money.
Once we do that for a
Agree.
while, that, they'll
Well,
catch
but here's
on.
what they say.
Yeah, we're too lenient.
Let me
right
just
now.
add
We
one
don't
thing,
come in
Well,
because I do file in
it
a lot
used
of
to
towns,
be
I've been doing this a
a lot
long
worse.
time.
Yeah.
If an engineer wants to waste his time with a new construction site and he's not mindful for the what does our bylaws say? You have to prove that you're doing the least impact. There's so many things in place, so if those engineers don't use those ethics, they're not gonna get very far with me. And if they can't learn quickly that this isn't an easy board, it's just a board that wants to do the right thing.
Pretty easy.
Well, I'm the same way. I feel like I'm very easygoing, but when someone I feel is playing a game or not doing something above board, who knows that they should be, that's what I really have a problem with.
So then they're wasting their time by coming. It's up
And
to
they're
us
wasting
to.
the applicant's money. But then we're the bad guy that we charge too much, cause they think they're spending the money on us.
So let's, to finish this conversation up, I think let's start fresh and not keep saying the policy has been, or the policy is. Let's have a new outlook on things. I know we have to be consistent, but
Follow the bylaws, follow the
follow
state
the
regulations,
bylaws.
and
We
we'll be
don't need
consistent.
bylaws and then all these other policies that are just in the sky somewhere, right? You know, I think that we'd achieve the same goal and have happier people. We gotta look out for the townspeople.
Can I just,
love to see, sorry Joyce, I would love to see the 7-day rule strictly,
I totally agree.
I
but
agree.
it has to be a policeman.
Okay.
Wanda's the one that has to do the policing, cause she's the one in here.
Where is Wanda right now?
Yeah, Wanda's not listening to me.
she's typing up the enforcement orders, cause
Oh.
she's gonna be gone for 2
Right,
days.
so
No,
it
she's-
has to be a policeman, and
Right.
Wanda hasn't.
I'll
really
talk to
done
Wanda
this.
about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
She's not gonna be in
And
the
one more
meeting.
thing on that, with the 7-day, I tell the.
Is 7 days easy?
7
enough?
business days now,
So-
clarified.
But think about that, is,
Under
when
10.
you came from Swansea to come here to our meeting today, is 7 days enough?
Lately, no.
Shouldn't there be 2 weeks?
And,
Well, then if it's a
and
2-week
like,
continuance, then you mean have to continue a month. From
yeah, I get it.
09
All
to
right.
about
Okay.
14.
I like talking things out.
15, that
Me
was
too, I
fine.
agree.
Recently, it's been off the charts
Yeah, it's
busy.
busy out there.
But, here's what the engineers say, as I said, you know, don't, the commission's gonna say that you're wasting their time, you gotta get in ahead, seven days ahead. And what they'll say is, well, I know they want you to comment, but I just feel better if I came in and just presented to them and see if they have any additional comments, cause I don't wanna have to come back after and get more comments from them.
See, that's what I don't agree with, because
Did you
in,
close?
What's that?
Did you
No.
randomly-
no.
No, we're still talking. From now on, if anybody files inside of 7 days, automatic continue.
Files
They don't have
the-
the plans.
Oh,
On
they
the
don't have the
plans.
plans to Brandon
Any
to review.
plans
They have to be 7 days.
prior.
If it's not,
Yeah,
and
I
if they have a
know.
problem with it, have them call
So-
me, but we
so-
need Brandon to
This
So
review.
Wanda,
includes revised
you
plans,
have to
too.
look at, so like the agenda 2 weeks from, that's set tonight for basically 2 weeks from now. A week from today, that has to be looked at, and if, 141 Armsby Road, let's pick on them, does not have a revised plan in, then they need an email or phone call that says, you're automatically being continued because we do not have a plan in within 7 days.
Just because it's
Right,
not
oh,
fair to
right?
put Brandon on
Yeah.
the spot.
Right, and that's
So-
on that one particular one that came in,
But every
But
one of
it's-
them, we
it-
have to have a
there's
check
been-
and balance
So quick,
because.
one more thing to cover, cause on the bylaws, this is probably a complaint I've heard in the last month twice. And Brandon, this was just to you to see if you could just help out the townspeople. When it's a negative determination, is there any way we could get that done a little quicker? And I understand with order conditions.
I understand where you're coming from.
Because if we're
They're
gonna
not-
so hear me out, we got the planning board, I see, is working with us more than ever, the building department's working with us more than ever. So we don't want people to say we're holding up permits.
No.
I'm just on, if you could, I'm just asking.
They're not that hard to put together. Wanda usually gets them to me within a couple of days.
We just put a real effort, if we give a
I'll
negative
be
determination,
sending
they
him the
didn't have to
stuff on
file the
Monday.
because these people are getting held up for like another 20
Yeah, I
days
don't
and.
want
I know.
I don't mean that I just, if we could do better on that, I think it would.
Okay.
Let me just, bring
you.
up another thing.
No, I just.
Where we did on Lincoln Road, where they did the, cutting, the forest cutting plan.
Trench's old house?
Yeah, they've got a sign up for,
Property for sale.
yeah, and
Okay,
they
so-
went in and did
This is.
perk tests.
Yeah, this is one of the gray areas of forest cutting. Is that the forest cutting is supposed to be specifically for this forest cutting, not as preparation for a future subdivision. All right?
Prepare.
So that I would confer with, the forestry department. I know that the chief of forestry who has all this stuff down pat, if they come in with a subdivision anytime soon and they say, well, it's already cleared out,
Right.
then.
And it's very wet in there.
They
It's in the
can- yeah,
wetlands
that's
where
true.
they're making the lots.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing, cause I know a lot of people, I know a lot of people personally that looked at that, and because of the property, refused to put an offer on it, so now if they're getting, just don't think that's fair.
Right.
The gentleman who's selling it did post online that he is working with an engineer now, but we haven't seen anything.
They got everything's.
So I have a question. So if you're narrowing a cutting plan, a state forester goes in and marks the trees that you can take down. So what's in place if so there's the logging company that goes in separate from the forester that marks the forest that is the one supposed to be over, so if we can see, cause they only allow 30% of the I know how they go and mark the land.
They do clear cutting plans.
They do?
If
Oh, yeah.
there's an issue and I get a complaint, I call Guy LaChance right away, and he goes out.
So
and
on this
does that.
particular project, cause I saw clear cutting, I see 2 areas with raw dirt that are substantial in size, not just like a
Stone-
brick hole,
stone
like,
walls
they
removed.
cleared down through the topsoil, through the A and B layer, and
That
I
was
don't
also
know, it looks
permitted.
like they did perk tests, but they,
Supposedly they said they were going in there to perk, so I don't know if maybe a notice
Yeah,
should be
see,
sent
the
out
thing is that
from.
forestry plans, like I just said, are not supposed to be a preparation for land development.
Yeah.
That's not the purpose. And if they, what is that, Jen Fish, who's the head, Skylar Chance's boss, has given seminars at MACC. And generally they say, if they come in within 2 years of cutting with a subdivision plan, they can get in trouble for that.
How about just lots, but.
Yeah, but
Even
here's-
if it's just lots.
Here's a question for
So
you.
should we send forestry, should we send something to them or?
We haven't even gotten anything to look at yet.
Yeah, I think you gotta wait till they take the
Yeah, but
first
here's a
step.
question for
Yeah,
you,
but
that
they
was
cut.
permanent
We have clear-cut lots
forestry,
with
we
dirt.
agreed to it through the state, and
Well,
that
we-
was done
we-
under
we're
the.
required.
Well, yes, but it was done under the prior owner, it was set up before she passed away, she then passed it to blank ownership, blah, blah, blah. That was approved a long time ago, now it's a new owner, does that change?
No, see, forestry's, annoyance with that is that they give these people, whoever it is, all these exemptions to do this work. And really it's just a preparation for a future development. So, the forestry, through their exemption process, gets really annoyed when someone else takes advantage of that,
Of the free pot, yeah.
privilege. They get really annoyed with that.
That's what I was getting at, is this state forestry plan that was marked out that was kinda not followed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was getting
I
at.
don't know if it was followed, I mean.
Can we
Because I-
notify them that they are now selling lots there?
You tell Guy, I could call Guy.
Well, should it go out to the current owner that just says, just,
Can you email them and CC us on it, so,
Sure.
thank you, and I think that'd answer.
yeah, but
all.
Guy LaChance might be.
We ready for the best motion of the night? We've been
Oh,
here-
oh, no, we
Yes.
got one more
Oh,
thing.
sorry.
We got the elephant in the room.
What?
What? Talking about costs and filing and RDAs and everything else, and I bring it up every time we do a bylaw review, but the 200-foot upland resource area,
That-
I think is,
You mean
the
the
buffer
60-40?
zone.
From a
No,
great
no.
pond?
Yeah, from a great pond, I think is excessive, especially.
I think it's unfair.
Especially for people that live across the street from a lake that,
I agree to that. That don't actually abut it, like across the street, uphill or something, like Manchester.
I mean, there's certain instances where I think it's a great thing to have. I think it's a wonderful thing to have, but I really think that having somebody to file that has no access to a pond to cut a tree down in their backyard is ridiculous.
As somebody living on the lake, 100 feet is only the distance between two telephone poles, and we're supposed to think of the benefit to the town and not individual people. And isn't there a way for somebody like that, I think we talked about this some meetings ago, and there aren't that many people it probably affects, but
It's the biggest
Wouldn't-
complaint I
Technically
get.
affects
wouldn't-
every single person that lives on a lake,
Right.
because
That's the
it gives
biggest
a
complaint I
200-foot
get.
it's not even the lots that aren't developed, it's everybody that lives on the water is within the jurisdiction of double what the state says.
What if it stopped at a property line though? So let's say Andy's on the water and I
So-
live across the street from him, why should I be affected if he's on the water?
But wouldn't you people that live on the lakes rather protect the lakes than,
Yeah, and I believe the 100 feet is enough. I think 200 is, I don't, so what do we,
I'd
what does
say-
it accomplish?
I
What-
did all the research on this the last time we did bylaw review.
This so-
And we're the only one. We're the only one around with that rule. And it's like the, lack of school vacation, Sutton shouldn't be the only one. It doesn't work out for Sutton to be the only one. That's my opinion, I wanted to bring it up, it's always been the elephant in the room.
I personally just think it protects the lakes more, and I don't have any property on the lakes, but
I don't
But you
think,
say
I-
that, but what, so how does it?
I don't think it does with all the
Because-
infiltration
because
units
then
there.
you can regulate anything that happens to protect stuff from going
But you
down the hill into the
State
water.
regulations do it, and 100 feet, I think, is more than enough. I think that we're becoming, wanting to control the town and everybody on what they do. When you start being excessive from the state regulations, which I think that particular one is. I don't know,
If you wanna pick it apart and say 200 feet for a septic install and all other activities exempt, I'd be for that, I get that, I completely understand that. Somebody wants to open up a nuclear power plant, I get being 200 feet away, but for somebody to cut down a 12-inch maple that's across the street from
Well, I agree, but
Manchog
they can
Pond,
file
I
an
think it's
RDA,
ridiculous.
you know.
Yeah,
Right,
but
which
that
costs
costs money.
money.
That
That's
costs
what we're
money.
trying to
We
get
gotta be
at.
mindful of
Well,
that.
how
We're
about
creating a
even
lot
just
more
a baby
costs in
step
this
here?
town
That
for
the 200
everybody.
feet stops, so anyone who's not,
Oh,
a
just-
different lot should not have.
Well,
It's not even a different lot. See, for me, it affects every person, so now we've doubled the, everybody that lives on a lake, does anything within 200 feet has to file.
Has to knock on the door, yeah.
Right.
Period, end of the story. I think it's excessive. I think that we're losing sight of the mission of what conservation was intended for. I don't think it's to control people. I think it's to protect the lakes.
We have never not allowed someone to build within 200 feet.
But I get it, but it's just the fact
No,
that
no, I'm
somebody
just-
has to file for stupid things and spend
Like
money.
cutting a small tree down, yeah, I get it, I get it.
If,
Now my
let's put it,
Yeah,
let's put
but
it.
that's like $25.
Let's put it this way.
It's not, they have to hire an
They-
engineer,
they
they gotta
gotta
do
do
a
all-
plan,
all
they
sorts
gotta,
of
it's
stuff.
not
Well, no,
$25.
because you have to be a handwritten thing.
If we
for
don't
a
wanna
tree.
knock the whole thing down to 100 feet, I'd like to pick it apart and make exemptions for it. My preference would be to get rid of the whole thing.
I
And
would-
bring it all
Mine
down
too.
to, and bring it down to
I
100
think you
feet.
can do exemptions to it, and I think you need to protect it'll open Pandora's box.
Absolutely
And
not,
you guys
Joyce. How?
will,
You have 100 foot from the
Yeah,
lake.
I-
And all our lakes are shared with another town. Douglas doesn't have it, Millbury doesn't have it, so.
and look what happened in Millbury there.
What happened in Millbury?
On the other side of Ramshorn.
What happened?
Those aren't
They-
big lots,
they-
those are up back in the hillsides,
Yeah.
and they did it without
Oh,
permits.
those were
And
5.
they got in
and
trouble
600s.
for it.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
So I mean, you
Clear
can't
cut it all.
stop, so whether the rule was in place, that would've happened anyways.
Right. So that's,
So does that have to be decided before
tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow's
If
the
it's
final
gonna be on the
deadline.
Do we wanna dig into it, or do we want?
You can do whatever you want, and I don't take this as somebody that's chair and I want you to do this. My personal preference would to make it 100 feet, everything the same.
I'd make that motion tonight.
I would want more time to just look it up myself and like review it myself before I would vote on to change it from 200 feet to 100 feet. I think we can probably, I would be fine with doing like some exemptions for it much more easily, but I wanna actually like look at it more myself.
This is something that's been going on in town, and we have one day to get it on the ballot.
I know.
And
Or
I
you
don't
can-
think it's
Or you can
unfair.
defer it to spring.
We put it off the last time.
We put it off the last time. I brought it up the last
We've
time.
already put it off before, Zach. I know you're a new member, but
I brought it up the last, we've only had, since I've been on this board,
I'll
we've only
make a
had one
motion
bylaw review.
to eliminate the 200-foot greater pond from the Sutton Conservation Bylaw.
What, just discussion, so you're saying go to the state bylaw, which is 100 feet?
100 feet.
Well, no,
And
just
follow
bring it,
all the
bring it,
rest.
all
Bring it 200
easy.
to 100.
Take the number 200 in
200 and
our
make it
bylaw,
100, so
cross
that
it out.
all the
put right
I
at
agree
100.
with Andy.
So it still stays in our bylaw?
Everything is gonna
Correct.
stay the same, except it's gonna go from 200 feet to 100 feet.
Right, so, Bill, the state's.
I don't think you should weigh in on this, I'm sorry.
No, I
This is
just
a
wanna
town
know.
thing.
Just point of clarification for what the jurisdiction is currently.
Okay.
I'm not and you're right, Mike, I have no say.
I didn't mean that and to be rude, I just think that this is
No,
a
I
town
can
I
thing.
can tell how
understand it.
passionate you are,
Well,
and that's a good thing.
fair's fair to the town
Right.
and all the
So-
people.
The state automatically has jurisdiction on the first 100 feet. They don't have jurisdiction between 100 feet and 200 feet. It's only the town or the bylaw that takes jurisdiction from 100 feet to 200 feet.
Is our bylaw?
But our bylaw, let me say this, we have more power in that 100 feet than the state regulations, so when you just asked to make sure that, this is why I agreed with Andy, I didn't wanna give up the control of the 100 feet, because I think that's sacred and.
100
so-
feet is huge.
So our bylaw is gonna allow us to enforce strict regulation within that 100 feet of the lake. That's why I think the 200 is
Yeah,
excessive.
but
We
that's
already
what I'm asking Brandon on the question, I agree, but I'm asking Brandon the question, if we take our 200, cross off 2 and put a 1, is our 100-foot bylaw stricter than the 100-foot of the state? Or is it
Yes,
exactly the
that's
same?
what absolutely.
It's still considered an adjacent upland resource area,
Remember, we
with all the
changed-
rights and privileges pertaining thereto.
So the only thing I wanna comment when someone says, well, why isn't it exactly like the state, we're still not gonna be exactly like the
No.
state, we're still in the 100 feet, but we're still stricter.
Because we want our stuff protected.
So
more
we're
than the
gonna
state.
look for mitigation in the 100 feet, we're gonna
Okay.
look for.
That's what I wanted to clarify.
That's why
on
I
my-
agree when Andy said just change 2 to 1, so that way we don't lose our bylaw
Stop it,
control. We're not going to the state
And if
regulation.
there's some crazy project 105 feet, we can control it so much in that 100 feet.
That's what I was.
If it affects the 100 feet.
Correct.
If something
Right.
200 feet away is gonna affect it into the 100 feet, we still can control it.
If somebody's gonna do something at 150 feet and screw something up at 100 feet, that's a different property. There's gonna be lawsuits and they'll be here
Well,
anyway.
even if it's the same property, as soon as like the erosion goes into the 100 feet, even if it's 1,000 feet away.
It's our issue.
If it makes your
Exactly.
way down
It
to the
becomes
100
our
feet,
issue.
the whole 1,000 feet becomes your issue.
Oh, it does.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say,
So
we
I
have a
feel-
line,
Right.
right. I
So-
don't think that this is giving up really a whole lot, I just think less people will have to file for the minor projects that are back further than 100 feet, which is usually a tree, or some driveway work, or, a shed, or a lot of the things that go on further away than 100 feet on all the existing lots, because that affects them too.
Mostly.
And a lot of people, so this is the other thing, most people don't even follow the bylaw. They're all doing work, I see it all the time. They're working within the 200 feet. So it's hard to enforce.
Right.
So this is another reason why.
It kills the
If we're
honest
gonna-
person like me. I have 2 trees I've wanted to take down, but I'm not gonna file on it, because they're not gonna hit anything, you know what I mean? I would just like to take them down, because they're dying slowly, they're ash trees.
So I have a motion.
So the
They have
motion is
wildlife
just to
value.
change the bylaw, just from 200 to 100.
They have wildlife value, then
Yes,
like,
that
takes
was
So
all
my
I
the
will
back down
second
when
that
Upland
motion
lands on it.
as.
We have a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nay.
Who did the second?
Opposed, no.
Who did the
I
second?
second it.
No,
Oh, I-
Mike made the motion,
motion.
I seconded
Yeah.
it.
Bill
It
seconded
was
it.
reversed this time.
So it's 4-0-1,
No.
3-2.
3-2.
Wins 3-2.
3-2, who's the twos? Joy?
Me and Zach. Okay, so I'll see about putting that on the agenda
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Do
you have
that
to sign it or I
tomorrow.
can sign it.
I'm around tomorrow, I
Yeah.
could come in and
Now, that's just going to the Board of Selectmen and then
yeah,
they vote
now
on
we're
it?
gonna have to make a presentation with the finance
Still has to be
committee
approved
on
by
the-
town meeting as well.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the town
all
still
the
has
town
to
still
vote
has
on
to
it.
go
Okay.
weigh in on this.
So
Yeah,
we'll,
so
we'll
does
speak at the town meeting.
The selectmen, the finance
Finance
committee, and then the fall town meeting.
The biggest thing I think, if it does get passed, is remind people it's still a 100-foot bylaw. It's not the state. The state has their 100.
It's a
100.
very strict 100-foot bylaw.
Yeah.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All those in favor?
Oh, we were gonna talk
Who did the
about,
second? I'm sorry.
we were
you
gonna
guys
talk
did-
about
I did.
moving the meetings to 6:30.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to do that on TV.
Yeah, we don't have to do,
You want to reopen for a second?
Yeah, make a motion to reopen the public meeting.
I'll
I
second.
ma-
Oh,
you
you make
can.
the
I make a
motion.
motion to reopen
Oh,
the
yeah.
public meeting.
I'll second it.
Can you record us or no, are you done?
I'm still recording.
Well,
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, you
Um,
need a vote. There was a second, but I didn't hear a vote.
Oh, all
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Does
Make-
is anybody opposed
You're-
to starting the meetings at 6:30?
It's a little harder, but
If
might
it-
be a few minutes
it's
late,
gonna be a
but I can
problem-
be-
Yeah, if it's
No,
gonna be a problem, if it's gonna be a problem.
It's only a problem if I have to work late, cause I
But
have
what-
to clock in and clock out, so
That
if
work
my
thing
boss
is-
makes me stay there, that would be
I
my
got you. I
only
don't wanna
issue.
put anybody out, but we would've been here tonight until
Yeah,
past
no,
one,
I
you know?
definitely agree, it just, I would have, if I'm gonna not be able to make it, it would be the day of that I would let you know.
Yep.
You know, at
Just
like
tell
5:30.
your boss I have a meeting.
Oh, yeah, that goes over.
I believe she can always watch tapes to catch up, so if
Yes.
you
Yeah.
missed
Yeah.
a few things,
Yeah.
and, yeah.
We'll talk
I'm
slow.
good with it.
And
I
like I
am-
said, I want twice a year, at least while I'm chair, I think we should review everything. We can review start times, we can review policies and procedures. I think it's good to try to keep the board in a forward motion, because it's just like having the same chair for 10 years, nothing gets done.
Well, it's
So-
nice to have a discussion,
It's positive.
yes.
So we'll make
Joyce,
it.
we all agree on your hard work or your fees, and everybody understands it
Very
now,
good.
so.
So I'm
I know
making-
as frustrating as
I-
all
I-
that
yeah,
was.
I'm about ready to
you-
cry.
You did
Out of
good.
happiness, I hope.
I make
Okay.
a motion to change the meeting, starting,
September.
Start the meeting at
no,
6:30.
not September, you can't.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we can.
You can, the next
We
3
can do all-
filings, put 6:30, 6:40, 6:50.
We've already told them though, what time.
7, no, but we can do
Yeah,
October
if there's
1st.
any new filings, put
Any
them
new
on.
Yeah, the new ones, put them on
Yeah.
at 6:30,
I'll throw
exactly.
one at 6:30.
So I make a motion.
6:40,
it's the
6:50, 10
September
minutes apart.
Right.
4th meeting to start at 6:30
Can
PM.
I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And make sure that the website reflects
Somebody make a
that.
motion to adjourn?
And I second
I'll
Mike's
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
I motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Another thing we need to look at, which I didn't have time to do, is what is on the website and review it.
The
and make
website
sure.
needs to be up.